Chair Lieber. As I get myself situated. Chair Lieber.
Here.
Vice Chair Gaines.
Here.
Member Vasquez.
Present.
Member Schaefer.
Present.
Deputy Controller Imran.
Here.
Thank you, members. The quorum is present and the board meeting is called to order. We will begin with our Pledge of Allegiance. If you would please stand, and Mr. Emron, if you would lead us in the pledge.
Yes, of course. Hands over your heart when we begin. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Gaines, I think we're getting a little bit of shuffling noise. If you could turn off your microphone temporarily, that would be fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, we will go on to our members' brief opening remarks. Is there anyone who would like to make remarks today? Mr. Vasquez.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning. I'd like to open up with a couple of observances happening this month. First, I'd like to highlight the 54th anniversary of the Chicano Moratorium, a rally that was held on August the 29th in 1970, when an estimated 20 to 30,000 protesters, including community members, families, and students, marched through East Los Angeles to peacefully draw attention to the disproportionately high number of Mexican Americans drafted and killed in the Vietnam War. Among American soldiers from the Southwest, nearly 20% of the casualties were among Mexican Americans, almost twice the rate of other soldiers. The demonstrators also protested issues such as the disparities in public education, the systematic exclusion from higher education, and a high unemployment rates among Mexican Americans at the home. Activists, community leaders, and students had built a broad coalition of support and created a day of education, learning, and music to help raise awareness of these disparities. The moratorium commenced at Belvedere Park with the protesters peacefully marching down Whittier Boulevard to Laguna Park. The rally unfortunately turned into violent after police arrived and forcefully removed thousands of people. Sadly, 3 people lost their lives in the violence, including the award-winning Los Angeles Times columnist and KMEX news director Ruben Salazar, which is now known as Univision, who was often referred to as the voice of the local Chicano community. Ultimately, the county of Los Angeles changed the name of Laguna Park to Ruben Salazar Park in honor of the fallen journalist and civil rights activists. Today, the legacy of the Chicano Moratorium continues to inspire many, including younger generations, to participate on this community activism. I'd also like to make a note and mention this is also the Black Business Month, which is celebrated in August to acknowledge and show appreciation of the Black-owned businesses in the United States. The goal is to highlight and empower Black business owners across the country, as well as acknowledging the unique challenges that minority businesses owners faced. With that, I'll turn it back to Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Emron.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning to all my colleagues here on the dais. Good morning to the Board of Equalization Executive Director and the staff here. So we're here at the end of August, end of summer, and I know we're going to have a good meeting. But first, I'd like to, Controller and I would like to formally recognize August 2024 as American Muslim Appreciation and Awareness Month. The history of Islam dates back to the founding of this great nation, and today millions of Americans, Muslim Americans, both immigrants and native-born, of diverse backgrounds and beliefs, are contributing in the fields of art, law, politics, business, and medicine, and so much more. There's approximately 1 million Muslim Americans that currently reside in California. It's the highest number in the United States. And Muslim Americans are one of the most racially diverse groups in the United States. Unfortunately, there has been a rise of Islamophobia. It's very real and dangerous in our society. Nearly 50% of Muslim Americans, including myself, have reported experiencing religious discrimination, with that number rising to 64% of Muslim Americans whose appearance identifies themselves as Muslim, such as a woman who wears the hijab or headscarf. So I urge California and the members and leaders of this board that there's a need for a public education campaign, awareness, and policies that help people be culturally competent when describing, discussing, or addressing the impacts that Muslim Americans have on all aspects of society. And when we talk about religious freedoms, there's many places in the world where the principle of religious freedom is non-existent, hardly even possible to imagine. And yet, if people around the world can see California as a place where people of different faiths live together in respect and equality and friendship, where Muslims and Jews and Buddhists and Christians and Hindus and atheists and agnostic folks all live alongside one another in love and harmony and peace, they can believe in that as a possibility for their own society. So let's set the golden standard here. Thank you, Madam Chair. I yield back.
Thank you. Mr. Schaefer, did you have any comments?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. It was such an exciting thing to come to the building this morning and see the name of Mei Lee on this huge multi-billion-dollar important complex. It's part of our government. Mei Lee was a small, frail lady that passed recently at, I think, 102, 103. But she knew the Board of Equalization very well. We honored her. She came to see us. I just happened to stumble on the fact that we had a 99-year-old lady working for the state and she had not met the governor. And I took it upon myself to remedy that. We took her over to the governor's office and had a nice meeting, a quality meeting with Governor Newsom. And it was interviewed and on television, and it was really a big thing. And she felt very happy to now know the present governor. And I'm so excited to see that we've commemorated her in such a wonderful way because she so loved. She came to work in the 1940s for us, and she's still with us and till recently. And so that's the first part. The second part, I always mention a birthday. We have two birthdays today. This is the birthday of Lyndon Johnson, former president. He was born in 1908, same year my mom was born. And I had the privilege of meeting him and had a nice visit with one of his daughters on the telephone. He did a lot of good for America as one of our leading presidents. This is also the anniversary of the film Mary Poppins. It was released in 1964. But the real reason I want to speak this morning is District 4, which is my district, Orange County, lost a very fine public servant last month. We had a man named Alexander Rodish, who was 55 years of age, who was with the Caltrans. He was busy clearing the roadway of trash, as we have to do to keep the traffic safety, and he was run over by a truck, lost his life. He was a family man. He'd been with us since 1921, and he just shows the great danger it is of working for some of our government agencies. Would you believe that since 1921, that's what, 103 years, we've had 193 men and women lose their lives as a result of accidents working with Caltrans. 193 in only 103 years. It makes it one of the most dangerous occupations, and I just hope we pay them extra hazardous pay. The problem is inattentive and distracted motorists. And I would just ask all of us to be sure that we have that extra bit of caffeine and that we take our naps and that we not be on the freeways unless we're ready to deal with it physically. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. Mr. Gaines, did you have opening comments that you wish to make?
Yes, thanks, Chair Lieber. I just wanted to remind everybody that Apple Hill is opening up over Labor Day weekend, and so we'd love to have folks come and enjoy apple pie or buy apples. It is a pretty big event. In fact, we usually get traffic jams on Highway 50 as people are coming up to the Placerville area to celebrate Apple Hill. So we'd love to have you all join us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And members, will go on now to our informational announcement. Ms. Cicchetti.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to do some housekeeping. We need to recognize that Mr. Gaines is participating today remotely. Vice Chair Gaines is appearing remotely. I have a statement and a question when a member of the board appears remotely. If a member of the board attends the meeting by teleconference from a remote location, the member shall disclose whether any other individuals 18 years of age or older are present in the room at the remote location with the member and the general nature of the member's relationship with such individuals. Therefore, Vice Chair Gaines, is there anyone 18 years of age or older present in the room at your remote location?
Currently, no, but my wife is in the house, but she's in a different room.
Okay, then thank you. That clears it
All
up.
right.
Okay, good. Then we're going to move on to our safety and informational announcement. Welcome to the Maylee State Office Complex. A brief word about building safety. In the auditorium, the exits are located in the front of each side of the stage, and other exits are located in the rear of the auditorium. Please take a moment to locate the exit closest to you in the event of an emergency. This meeting is live streamed to the public and posted on our BOE YouTube channel. Therefore, we ask that all speakers please state your name first before you begin speaking for the record. We ask that you speak clearly and slowly into the microphone. I would like to remind the audience to silence their cell phones and any other wireless devices. Public comment is taken on each agenda item. The public will be invited to comment on matters before the board. If there are any members of the public wishing to speak before the board on any agenda item in person, we ask that you complete and submit to the Sergeant of Arms a public comment appearance sheet located at the entrance of the auditorium. If you wish to speak before the board by telephone, please dial the phone number and access code provided on the public agenda notice and follow the instructions of the AT&T moderator. If you intend to make a public comment today using the AT&T moderator, we recommend dialing into the meeting on the teleconference line before the beginning of the agenda item you wish to comment on. We recommend this as the audio broadcast on our website experiences a 1 to 3 minute delay between the live stream and the live event. When giving public comments, please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. This concludes the informational announcement. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Getty. And members and audience, before we get started with the agenda for today, I'd like to recognize that our public comment on items that are not on the agenda will be taken up as item 13 at the end of today's agenda to recognize that we have our taxpayer Bill of Rights hearing, which would be item number 1. So having said that, we'll go on to item number 1, our taxpayers Bill of Rights hearing. Ms. Thompson, Chief Taxpayers Rights Advocate, will provide an introduction and facilitate the public hearing. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Chair Lieber and honorable board members. I'm Lisa Thompson, the Chief of the Taxpayer Rights Advocate. Sorry. Good morning, Chair Lieber and honorable board members. I am Lisa Thompson, our agency's Taxpayer Rights Advocate and Chief of the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office. I'm pleased to be here today as we conduct the annual Taxpayer Bill of Rights hearing to provide taxpayers, industry representatives, government agencies, and other parties the opportunity to provide comments before this elected board. The hearing is held in accordance with the Morgan Property Taxpayer Bill of Rights, as well as the California Taxpayer Bill of Rights. Before we extend the opportunity to the public to provide comments, I would like to share some information as to the format and purpose of the hearing, then discuss the main contents of the most recent Taxpayer Rights Advocate Annual Report, which serves as the basis for the hearing. The annual report is the fiscal year 2022-23 report, which can be accessed on our agency's website through the Taxpayer Rights Advocate page, as well as by viewing it on this month's public agenda. As to the order of the speakers, we are extending the opportunity to speak to those that are here in person at the hearing. And we will also be then reading any written comments that were provided to the board proceedings or the TRA office ahead of time, indicating that they wanted their public comment to be read. And Ms. Amy Hendrickson of my staff will be reading those public comments submitted. Any comments that were submitted directly to board proceedings, which were not made via the TRA appearance form that were submitted after 9 a.m. today, the board proceeding staff will read those. I'm not aware that we actually have any yet, so. And then, basically, after the in-person speakers are read or comment, then I will comment after their remarks and then invite the members to comment if they have further questions. And after I, similarly, when she reads the public comments, then I'll remark as well. And then we'll go to the phone lines to invite any other people that are available. So basically, the Bill of Rights hearing, the purpose is to provide taxpayers and industry representatives, assessors, and local agencies the opportunity to provide comments on any items that are discussed in the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Annual Report for purposes of correcting those problems described in that report, or on any issues that they may be currently working with the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office on. Parties may also comment on programs administered by the State Board of Equalization, the quality of our agency's services, or property tax issues. Individuals may present their concerns regarding agency services or issues related to the administration of our tax programs, including state and county property taxes, alcoholic beverage tax, and the tax on insurers. Our agency's taxpayer rights hearing is held in accordance with certain statutory provisions. Those provisions are included in our Taxpayer Rights Advocate Annual Report in the appendix. However, for property taxes, Revenue and Taxation Code Section 59606D states that the board shall annually conduct a public hearing soliciting the input of assessors, other local agency representatives, and taxpayers to address the advocate's annual report pursuant to Section 5904, and to identify a means to correct any problem identified in that report. For the alcoholic beverage tax, Revenue and Taxation Code Section 32463 states, the board shall conduct an annual hearing before the full board where industry representatives and individual taxpayers are allowed to present proposals on changes to the alcoholic beverage tax, which may further improve voluntary compliance and the relationship between taxpayers and government. The Taxpayer Rights Advocate Annual Report that is applicable to this hearing is fiscal year 2022-23, which was published in February of 2024. This report included discussions of problems or issues that are in the area of property taxes and contain examples of property taxes cases illustrating how our office assists taxpayers and help resolve their problems. Additionally, that report describes our office's involvement in education to local taxpayers, and we do this through the publication of information sheets that are written in simple, non-technical terms that are geared to assist taxpayers in understanding various property tax topics. Before we invite taxpayers to share their experiences or voice their concerns before this elected board, I would like to share with you some statistics on the completed cases for last year. For fiscal year 2022-23, our office completed work on 310 cases, which was an increase of about 30 over the prior year. The majority of those cases originated from our offices through the web contacts and by the phone. However, taxpayers were also forwarded from board members' offices after the taxpayers contacted their office seeking assistance. Of the completed cases, 25% were from taxpayers in District 1, Board Member Gaines' district, 29% in District 2, Board Member Lieber's district, 21% in District 3, Board Member Vasquez's district, and 25% from District 4, Board Member Schaefer's district. Of the completed cases, 78% were in the valuation category with 22% in the administrative category. The annual report identifies specific topics within each of those categories. The topic with the largest percentage in the valuation category was exclusions from reassessments at 40%, followed by exemptions at 14%. The topic from the largest percentage in the administrative category was delinquent and defaulted taxes at 45%, followed by access to data and the other category at 32%. In addition to providing statistical information on completed cases, the annual report discusses examples illustrating how our office helps taxpayers. I will not go into those examples since that was done at the February meeting when the presentation of the annual report was made. Essentially, what we do, though, is if the issue concerns work performed by one of our agency's departments, we work directly with that particular division within the property tax department to help resolve it. And if we have it with local agencies, then we work with assessors and their staff if it is an assessment issue, and tax collectors if it's a tax bill issue. We review each case on a case-by-case basis, conduct research into the law and existing guidance that is pertinent to that situation, and then contact local agencies to help resolve the issues between the taxpayers and that agency, and then we respond to the taxpayer with our analysis. Generally, we help taxpayers with problems that they have with the assessment or collection of property taxes on their property, and we ensure that they are treated fairly according to the law. And also, at the February 2024 board meeting, we did go through examples, and they also identified the different information sheets that were issued. However, I would like to kind of identify those at this time because I think it's an important component. So the portion on educating the public discusses the TRA office's role in taxpayer education through the publication of information sheets, which is to assist assessors in their efforts to educate local taxpayers to promote an understanding and compliance with the law. The information sheets are meant to help taxpayers be aware of property tax savings that may be available to them. And this year's annual report identifies the completion of 5 information sheets, specifically on base year value transfers for disabled persons, property tax assistance programs for seniors, homeowners exemption, and the disabled veterans exemption. These information sheets are posted to our agency's website under the TRA area, and we currently have 12. The Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office is committed to making improvements to taxpayer education to provide taxpayers with simple, understandable terms. For today's taxpayer rights hearing, we were notified in advance of 15 comments prior to this hearing through contacts with board proceedings or the TRA office. We received 11 written comments that were submitted. One indicated that they wish to speak, but we do have that public comment if she's not on the phone lines. We also were aware that 4 wish to speak at this hearing. The confirmed speakers here at the meeting are Honorable Christina Nguyen, Sacramento County Assessor and President of the CAA, Mark Aprea, Principal for Aprea and Michelli on behalf of California Alliance of Taxpayer Advocates. That organization also submitted a letter before this meeting. And Mr. Tobias Wolkin with Caltax, as well as Gina Rodriguez from Ryan LLC. And we also have a taxpayer from a Bay Area county, Mr. Larry Alba. So again, for the in-person speakers, Chair Lieber will be calling the speakers, and then I'll comment in response to them after they come up to the podium. And then we will proceed with reading and public comments. So this concludes my remark. Unless there are any questions from the board, we can invite taxpayers and stakeholders up.
Are there any questions for Ms. Thompson right now? We'll wait. And that was a wonderful synopsis of the work of your office, so thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll go ahead and we'll call up our presenters, and we'd like to start with Assessor Christina Nguyen from Sacramento County. She is also president of the California Assessors Association. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you and good morning. Good morning, honorable board members and distinguished audience. My name is Christina Nguyen, and I serve as the Sacramento County Assessor as well as the President of the California Assessors Association. It is an honor to join you this morning. I want to extend my gratitude for including me in today's hearing and for maintaining this valuable forum for taxpayers. In my view, the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights hearing is a critical platform for both taxpayers and county assessors. For taxpayers, this hearing is an empowering tool, providing a unique opportunity for individuals to voice their concerns, share their experiences, and engage directly with those responsible for administering our tax laws. This open dialogue transforms taxpayer rights from mere concepts into tangible realities. It fosters transparency and accountability, giving taxpayers the confidence that their voices are heard and their concerns are taken seriously. For county assessors, the hearing is equally invaluable. It provides us with essential insights into the real-world impacts of the tax policies we implement. By listening to taxpayers, we gain a deeper understanding of the challenges they face, which in turn help us refine our processes and improve our communication. This collaborative environment enables us to work together with the board and taxpayers to resolve issues and enhance the fairness and effectiveness of our tax system. By offering this forum, the California State Board of Equalization plays a vital role in building trust, improving our practices, and ensuring that every taxpayer is treated with the respect and fairness they deserve. I would also like to take a moment to acknowledge the commendable work of Lisa Thompson, the taxpayer rights advocate, and her dedicated team. The expertise and assistance they provide to both taxpayers and our offices are invaluable. These interactions are beneficial to all parties involved. Furthermore, the topical information sheets published by the Advocate's Office are excellent educational tools. I encourage the board to continue supporting the Advocate's efforts to produce new and updated information sheets to assist the public in navigating the complex world of property assessment. In closing, as the Sacramento County Assessor and President of the California Assessors Association, I'm deeply grateful for the opportunity to participate in today's hearing. I look forward to hearing the public testimony and to continuing our solution-oriented relationship with the Board of Equalization and all interested parties. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and we very much appreciate the partnership that we have with the Assessors Association and everything that you've been able to do this year to help facilitate and strengthen that relationship, so thank you. Now, we'll go on now to...
If you don't mind.
Oh, excuse me, Ms. Thompson, sorry.
No problem. So thank you, Christina, for coming. We appreciate your comments, and we're glad that the assessors find the information sheets useful. We do look forward to working with you in partnership in the upcoming year to develop more topics and get consensus on the topics that you feel and other assessors feel that taxpayers need, so we can move forward with advancing taxpayer education. Also appreciate your office as well as other assessors' offices assisting us when we contact you regarding taxpayers to get information on the assessment and change in ownership aspects that, that they have had to their properties that we're seeking to resolve. So thank you very much.
Thank you, excellent. And we'll go on to Mr. Mark Aprea, who is principal in Aprea and Company. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Ms. Thompson, members of the BOE staff. For the record, my name is Mark Aprea. I'm a principal in Aprea and Company, and we're here on behalf of our client, the California Alliance of Taxpayer Advocates. As you may recall, CATA is a nonprofit trade association made up of tax consultants and tax attorneys representing taxpayers before county assessors, local assessment appeals boards, and the Board of Equalization. And our purpose is to protect the rights of California property taxpayers. We want to thank you for the opportunity to be here. And Madam Chair, I want to comment on your word of partnership, because this is a partnership between the State Board of Equalization, county assessors, assessment appeals boards, treasurer, tax collectors, county controllers and we view this as all part of a system to ensure that assessments are made fairly and that property taxpayers are treated fairly in the process. I want to comment that the taxpayer Bill of Rights hearing today, our view at CADA is that every day is at the BOE is a taxpayer Bill of Rights day. The staff, the members of the board have always listened to us when there has been an issue, whether it is a discrete one or it is one of broader policy. And so while we understand the nature and the reason for this hearing today, I want to just say that our view is that the BOE has always taken the taxpayers' rights very much close to heart and to your purpose and mission. The two primary functions are to ensure fair and equitable treatment of taxpayers in the assessment and collection of property taxes, and to recommend changes in policy. And again, we always find that the BOE has been open to that. We view that those who come before the BOE are always treated with respect and understanding. And so we want to, in the spirit of that partnership, suggest that as an ongoing effort that the BOE continue in its role, continue to doing the great job you're doing in protecting the property taxpayers, but also in your task in engaging in oversight and providing direction and encouragement to improving and modernizing the system. Again, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here with you today, and we look forward to continuing to work with the board and with staff. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and we very much appreciate your facilitation of the free flow of information between practitioners and the board and staff as well. Ms. Thompson, did you have comments?
Yes, I just wanted to thank Mr. Apreyer for coming, and we appreciate him joining us today on behalf of the California Alliance of Taxpayers Associates. CADA serves an important role in protecting taxpayer rights, California taxpayers, and they have a broad membership. We certainly appreciate their nice words about the information sheets in their letter, and we appreciate that they helped us promote this hearing as well. We look forward to working with CADA on any issues that they may have in the future relating to property taxes.
Thank you so much. And we'll go on now to Mr. Tobias Wolken. Mr. Wolken is a policy advocate for the California Taxpayers Association. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Lieber and board members. Name is Tobias Wolken with the California Taxpayers Association. First, want to give a thank you to the Board of Equalization for holding this meeting. CalTax believes that these meetings are a great forum for taxpayers and the board to collaborate in ways in which the state can improve its property tax administration. Going on to issues, CalTax has two issues to present this morning. First being the standardization of property tax administration across California's 58 counties. The board has been incredibly successful in ensuring the uniformity of assessment practices and appraisal standards through issuing both the Assessor's Handbook and assessment practice surveys. CalTax believes the board could take a similar approach in providing oversight of business operations and procedures for county assessor offices to ensure a streamlined property tax administrative structure. Potential oversight could include evaluating whether counties are accepting digital signatures, compiling information regarding the format of assessment appeals hearings, and the status of property tax appeals if there are any outstanding. Operating procedures used in each of the 58 counties have a significant impact on property tax compliance and the overall assessment practices in California, and CalTax would encourage the board to take a more active role in providing uniformity regarding these procedures. The second issue we wanted to bring up is a lack of communication between county assessors and auditor controllers. CalTax has been made aware of the fact that in several counties, when a taxpayer is successful in appealing their property tax assessment, challenges can arise in issuing these refunds. While we recognize that this is often a local level issue, the role of the board in monitoring local property tax trends is vital to ensuring that California's property tax system works for taxpayers. We would encourage the board to study these trends and consider recommending best practices to the counties as they evaluate communication procedures between local entities and taxpayers. Again, thank you for hosting this meeting and allowing us to testify, and we will be submitting some written comments outlining some of the verbal comments we made at the meeting. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, and we very much appreciate your participation and the willingness of Caltex to be open and to share information with us throughout the year. Ms. Thompson?
Yes, thank you for joining us on behalf of Caltax and for helping us promote this hearing as well. They are a well-respected taxpayer advocacy group and has informative newsletters that are released. Some of the comments, our oversight is over county assessors' offices. We do have, our agency has a role in assessment appeals, and that is to prescribe rules and regulations for them. We are aware that the Caltax, as well as Ryan LLC, has asked our executive director to meet with her as well as the property tax deputy director, and they will be doing that in September. So,
Okay, thank you. And next we have Ms. Gina Rodriguez from Ryan LLC. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Gina Rodriguez. I am a principal in Ryan's Advocacy Services practice. Ryan is a global tax firm providing end-to-end business tax services to both domestic and foreign clients. We are not subject to Sarbanes-Oxley Act, so that's why we have an advocacy services. And because we have one of the world's largest property tax practices, one big reason I'm here today, we also try to advocate for best practices in property tax administration. For the last 2 years, the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce has been holding monthly meetings through the LA County Property Tax Task Force. It's a mouthful. And I'm a member of that and tend to facilitate each of these meetings. The task force was started because post-COVID, Los Angeles County had about 40,000 appeals in backlog, an enormous number. So assisting to try to figure out, again, best practices to get through that. Last week, by virtue of the Los Angeles Board of Supervisors mandate, the county did release a report from, and you're going to hear this theme, we've heard it from the other speakers as well, from the assessor, the auditor controller, the tax collector treasurer, and the executive office of the AAB. So it's all four, and we understand that you have jurisdiction over assessors and somewhat limited jurisdiction over the AAB with respect to guidelines, but we really do need to stop operating in silos and pull everyone together, pull all the county officials together, and what better body to do it than the Board of Equalization. So the report did identify holes with LA's current property tax administration and provides recommendations on how to make them more efficient. Two of the significant problems, and the task force identified these problems as significant as well early on, is that the length of time it takes to schedule appeals and the length of time it takes to get a refund. So again, if an appellant is successful in a refund, it sometimes takes up to a year to get the refund. And that's a lot of interest the county is paying. We pulled the numbers from LA County, and over 3 fiscal years, it was $14 million that could have been used for something else had we had a better system in place. I do have recommendations. I have 8, and I will provide them to Lisa in writing. I'll go through them quickly, just so you're aware of what we're working on. But the board supported AB 1879. It covered e-signatures. It didn't quite go far enough, so we are going to go back to the legislature next year. We really do need e-signatures on paper returns. Many counties don't have e-filing. We have to file, it's hundreds and hundreds of pounds of paper. Alameda County Assessor Fong Law said he would work with us on that, so we're looking forward to sort of finalizing the e-signature issue. We've also have a suggestion to legally require enrollment deadlines for stipulations, perhaps 30 days from the date of the hearing, or 60 to 90 days from the date of the hearing to issue refunds. And again, we have all worked on the delayed refund issue for about 2 years, so we think we know what needs to be done. And as Tobias testified, communication is critical between the county offices. All 58 assessors choose how they want to operate, and there is, as Tobias also pointed out, there is a lack of consistency, making compliance very burdensome. So a couple of examples. Some counties accept bulk filing, some don't. Some accept e-filing, some don't. So maybe as part of this property tax initiative, we could look at the significant inconsistencies and make recommendations to the assessors to reduce the compliance burden on taxpayers. Speaking of inconsistencies, this is one we're all familiar with. The appeal deadline is November 30th, except in 11 counties where it's 9/15. Bills are not issued until October, so many taxpayers miss the 9/15 appeal deadline. They just don't see the bill until after the deadline has passed. One more inconsistency. Some assessors accept computerized forms and some don't. The ones that don't accept them reject them under the 441G authority. And they do this even though the assessments are based on those forms. And then the taxpayer also gets hit with a 10% penalty. So we've got to, I'm going to use the word Tobias used, modernize. We have to be able to accept computerized forms. We all use computers now. One technical issue that's been going on, there's been no guidance provided on how to value intangibles. And we've had court cases on this, but no methodology provided. So while Mr. Moon and Mr. Young, and thank you, Ms. Towers, very much for getting the solar exclusion out yesterday, we really appreciate that. We would prefer also to have you tell us how to value intangibles. Tax collector or treasurer, the TTC as we call them, they have refund procedures that rely on taxpayer addresses at the time the original payments were received. This whole area of addresses is a mess. It's a mess. So they'll try to send out the refund, but it's going to an old address, and perhaps the assessor has the new address, but again, there's no sharing with each other. So we have this problem at Franchise Tax Board too. We're going to address it at their Bill of Rights hearing because addresses are holding up a lot of the processes. And then I thought too, maybe perhaps I saw that the state controller has a committee on county tax collecting procedures, and maybe that would be a proper forum to discuss some of these issues as well. And finally, consider amending statutes that mandate BOE assessment sampling surveys, apologies. Those provisions are fairly old. The board does a great job in doing those surveys, but maybe we need to modernize them. That would take legislation, but maybe take a look at some other things we should be identifying in the individual assessors' offices. And I thank you very much for your time, Lisa and team. You guys are wonderful. You help taxpayers in an unbelievable way, and thankless job, I know. So, and board, thank you very much for your time. Okay.
Question, if I could.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering, can I ask a question of Ms. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thank you for your presentation. I really appreciate it. And I was just curious in terms of the electronic forms. I represent a lot of rural counties, and so part of the struggle is to make sure that they're getting the necessary upgrades that they need. And during my tenure, we're seeing some improvement in that area. There was some grant money available that I think the controller helped us secure. And I don't know how much of those funds are available, but it'd be nice to get, if we get an update, maybe through the executive director in terms of what's happening to those grant dollars so that counties have an opportunity to modernize.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Gaines. And Ryan stands ready to support any sort of funding that would be necessary We do know resources are a huge problem in some of the more rural counties. But if we could also look at the amount we would save those offices if we went electronic versus paper.
Wonderful. And then in terms of modernizing the surveys, I'd sure like to hear more about that. Maybe not right now. I don't want to take up too much time in the meeting here, but I think that's a good conversation to have. And again, I think if we could, if our executive director could maybe take a look at that, and that's something that we could discuss in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Gaines. Yes, we plan on meeting with your executive director next month, if she'll have us.
Thank you.
That's great. Wonderful. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Vasquez?
Excuse me, Mr. Vasquez.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your presentation. I know the Ryan Group's real active on this, and in your remarks, you mentioned potential savings because of the interest.
Yes.
Can you walk me through that a little bit?
Yes, so if we file an appeal for, say, 2022, I'll speed it up. We do have some that are old as 14. But if we file an appeal, and if the appeal is successful, the Assessment Appeals Board says, yes, taxpayer, we agree with you, then the AAB submits that decision to the auditor controller, and the auditor controller by law is supposed to update the tax rolls. So correct the tax rolls if it's a valuation issue, they're going to correct the tax rolls. And then they're supposed to calculate the refund and interest and send it out to the taxpayer. Something is causing a slowdown. We understand there's some system problems. Some systems are not working as planned in some counties. Now, Los Angeles has an excellent system. They're always being getting awards for their system, but it is, especially in LA County, especially slow for taxpayers to get those refunds. For personal property, it seems to move much quicker. For real property, it's not moving quick at all. In fact, it's so slow that the auditor controller sponsored a bill this year, and it just got amended yesterday, to terminate interest on refunds if they don't get the refund out within 90 days. And, taxpayers have to pay on time. We would think a reasonable amount of time to refund the money is appropriate as well. And that saves all that interest for the county that they're having to pay. So that's why they wanted to terminate the interest, because they know they're spending a lot because they're not getting the refunds out timely.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, when it's the property owner that is holding back or maybe is not making the right payment, they're obviously tagged with the interest. Even if it takes, a year out, they're responsible for that. Whereas when it's the counties, if they take, let's say, over a year, it caps out after, let's say, a year, and let's say it takes 2 years, they're not on the hook for the interest.
They're not off the hook right now, correct. They have to pay interest, 3%, yes.
How much time, what are we looking at? What's usually the time, that delay you're saying?
Well, typically, I think that at least the LA report said it's about 6 months. We'd like to get that cut down somehow. And we're experiencing much more than 6 months. We're looking at 12 months to 2 years sometimes. And if it's an older case, there's some other process that goes on, and Assessor Nguyen could probably explain it better than me, but if it's an older case out of statute, there's all these other procedures that have to happen before that refund can go out, even though the taxpayer won the appeal.
And what's the delay in your opinion?
Resources.
Resources? Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Amron, did you have a question?
Yes, one real quick question, Madam Chair. Ms. Rodriguez, you talked about the intangible methodology. So are you saying there's different organizations using different methodologies right now as we speak?
Different assessors, yeah. We're seeing different assessors come out with different methodologies. We'd like to have some guidance and we have court cases on this, right? So we'd like to have some guidance for consistency.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez, for being here. We appreciate all of your carefully prepared input. Ms. Thompson.
Yeah, so we do appreciate the comments. Gina is a valued partner with BOE, and I enjoy working with her. We always appreciate her comments. I'll address just some of them, just hearing them kind of the first time today. But we have had comments in the past about Los Angeles in particular for refunds, and we understand the frustration with having to wait, certainly for refunds after an AAB has decided a reduction. So we have offered to Ryan to look at information that they provide to us to determine kind of the timing that it takes to issue refunds for their decisions that they have already received refunds, as well as for those that have not. But it sounds like at this point, Los Angeles has issued the report. I haven't seen this report, so I'm curious to get that from her maybe after this meeting, as far as to identify, the delay. But I think it still would be helpful for the TRA office if Ryan is willing to give us that data to kind of see where exactly that delay is, because we can see for Los Angeles, the Los Angeles County Assessor portal online has a lot of information on a property. So they post information about corrections. So if Ryan was able to give us the detail as far as AAB decision, date, property information, and the amounts, we can actually look online to see when the assessor performed their work as far as processing that role change or role correction and transmitted it to the assessor's office. So that would give some insight where a particular stall is in that respect. So my office still is willing to do that. If they offer it up, we can do that. So as to some of the other comments, quite a few, electronic signatures, I'll start with that. They do pertain to section 441 subdivision K of the R&T code that allows assessors to accept the filing of property statements electronically. And the types. So our agency had issued letter to assessors 2020 on 2020-22. And they talk about digital signatures that were authorized under the government code. Recently, Assembly Bill 1879 was passed by the legislature, and it was sent to the governor's office for signature on August 19th. So assuming this bill is signed by the governor, it does allow assessors to accept more forms electronically that were not previously able to be filed electronically, and it expands the acceptance of digital signatures. So once that law is signed, our property tax department will be issuing a letter to assessors about it. After the hearing, we'll reach out to the property tax department, find out about the timing of that once that bill is signed, and then have further discussions with Gina about it. Again, I mean, most of it I think is refunds. As she kind of said, our agency does have oversight over county assessors, much more limited as far as assessment appeals boards. It's limited in its oversight, but other than prescribing rules. So we are, though, happy to work with Gina and appreciate her comments, and we'll coordinate with the property tax department. She also, Ryan, will be meeting with CalTax, with our agency's executive director and property tax department deputy director next month in September to talk about procedures in the various areas. So, thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Mr. Larry,
Chair Lieber,
excuse me,
Chair
Mr.
Lieber.
Gaines?
Could I ask a question of Ms. Thompson?
Certainly.
Because the point that Ms. Rodriguez brought up with Ryan, in terms of the amount of revenue paid out in interest, it'd be interesting to see what those numbers are, because couldn't that then be used to hire more people within the department? And so I'm not quite sure I understand what's going on in some of these counties, but this seems, maybe it's not enough. There's not enough interest to even hire anybody in some cases. I don't know, but this doesn't seem to make sense to go on and on. And I think legally they're obligated. I'm not sure that a county assessor can say, hey, we're not paying interest after 90 days. It just doesn't make sense to me that if you're holding someone's money and you're agreeing to pay it for X number of days, and because of the departments, or I shouldn't say the departments, but the assessor's office, because of their inability to get it, refunded to the taxpayer in a timely manner, that just doesn't make sense to me. And I may be missing a lot of pieces to this, but I think it's something that we ought to be taking a look at.
Okay, thank you, Member Gaines, for that comment.
I see our executive officer approaching.
So I'll go ahead and comment first. Yeah. So, so as far as who is responsible, I guess I'll start with that, for issuing the refunds after an AAB decision is made. It's actually under statute, it's rests with the auditor's office, but they definitely have to coordinate with the assessor's office, because the assessor's office will do roll corrections and figure out the different, affected values. So the most straightforward way is if the taxpayer that's in the appeal still owns the property. When the taxpayer doesn't own the property, that kind of gets a little more complicated, because then that affects supplemental assessments to a future owner. So the auditor would have to very much work with the assessor's office to figure out the actual assessment changes. So,
Right.
and as far as refunds, there
I can
are
just clarify,
interest.
because we've also had problems. Remember, on Prop 19, we've had people moving into their new home, and they can't get their money back from the county, and so they're paying. In a sense, they've already paid taxes, and they're yet paying again. And I know that we had discussed about this months ago, and I don't know to what degree that's been resolved. But I want to make sure that we're responding to taxpayers and they're being treated in a fair manner.
Okay.
So I'm sorry for interrupting, but I wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. Sounds like an item that staff is under discussion on, and we may want to in the future agendize it as an item for board discussion at some point after staff has the time to complete their work.
One, I think it might
Right.
to be helpful
Thank you.
is once, Gina indicated that, they just issued a report in Los Angeles, and I'll talk with her about it and see what that is. I'm sure that if it I'm sorry, I thought she said, I don't know, it was a big number, whatever it was, 15 billion, I don't know. So it was a lot, or millions, but I'll find out kind of about that. So they identified that they are paying additional interest to these taxpayers. And obviously, yes, that has a big impact, because they could use it for something else. So I'll look into that and then maybe provide an update in a future meeting, about that. And then also, as far as, I don't know the statutes off the top of my head, as far as interest, that's on the auditor side, that the auditor, that's who determines what the amount of refunds are and what the amount of interest is. That's in the auditor's arena, which really isn't in our control as far as oversight jurisdiction, but the TRA office can look at refunds under a provision of the taxpayer Bill of Rights that are there under Morgan. So there is that, and that's kind of why the TRA office offered to examine information on refunds for Ms. Rodriguez on behalf of Ryan for her clients, but.
Yeah, well, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank
you.
Thank you for clarifying the auditor's role. But we still have to make sure that the assessors are getting their information to the auditor in a timely manner. That would fall within our purview, would it not?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah.
And
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Gaines. And we have some comments, I believe, from Mr. David Young.
Thank you. Thank you very much. For the record, David Young, Deputy Director of Property Tax Department. Good morning, Honorable Chair Lieber and members of the board. I just wanted to clarify, Ms. Rodriguez actually has it correct. Revenue Taxation Code 1614 requires the clerk of the board to take note of all the changes the AAB makes to the assessment of property, and on a monthly basis, transmit that to the auditor for roll corrections. So that part of it is in statute. And right now, Mr. Gaines is concerned that there may be a stoppage of interest for folks that are owed a refund. That is not the case right now. Counties are bound to pay interest right now. There is discussion and perhaps a desire to seek legislation to basically cap that interest at some point, but that is not the lay of the land right now. So right now, there is a mechanism for the board, the Assessment Appeals Board, for their role changes to get to the auditor. And there's already in place statute requiring interest to be paid. So any deviation that would require a statutory change.
Okay. If I could just, Mr. Young, thank you
Yes.
for clarifying that. But doesn't that sound a little weird? We can't get your money to you, so we're going to work on a statute so that we don't have to pay any more interest after 90 days. That there's an accountability issue here. So I think we need to keep a real close eye on this, and I'm sure Ted Angelo will be watching what may or may not be happening in the legislature on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gaines, and thank you, Mr. Young, and Mr. Angelo is here in the auditorium with us, and I think he'll be hearing the interest in knowing a little bit more about that legislation and how it's doing in this session. Anyone else have questions on this particular set of issues? If not, we will keep on going. And we'll ask up Mr. Larry and Philip Alba. Thank you for being with us today.
I'm Larry Alba, and this is my son, Philip. And basically, I think the way I want to make my presentation today, and then I think if the state wants to do I was reading here the rules, if the state likes my idea, we hope that they will schedule for a future meeting that we will go through to see about implementing my ideas. So the first part of my presentation is I'm holding up this is item A. And this is can you all look at item A in your little packet that I gave you? That is the size that Santa Clara County is issuing for a tax bill. It's two-sided and, excuse me. And my request is to change this to a larger size paper and give the public a lot more information, which is what we call transparency. And so basically on item B, we have a two-sided piece of paper. And this is basically what looks like the tax bill that people get. And you can see on page B1, you'll see there's a 1 and a 2. Those are just the payment coupons. And my idea would be to probably put that on a separate piece of paper because the public, when they get this, literally they got to get a magnifying glass to read it. I'm serious. And that's how about 4 or 5 years ago, I became interested. I said, there's got to be a better way than this. Everything was too tiny. So then when I went down to, let's see, I'll call attention to item C. This is a big piece of paper. When I went down to the county, Santa Clara County Treasurer's Office, they said, "Oh, we have more information if you want to come down here and request it." So they have more detailed information on how many bonds and parcel taxes and so forth. But you have to go down there, basically wait an hour in line, and then you can get some information this way. And so then we go to item D. D is, I believe, this is a chart they put on their website, and but it has a lot of things missing from this. It does not show the assessed value that we're dealing with on the individual property. And it does not show the amount of taxes that people pay for that, each item on that list. And then one of the most confusing things is ERAF, and I had to ask him, what is that thing? And then they said, well, that's Educational Revenue Augmentation Fund. I said, that sounds very, very important. Why, with all the space they have on that line, why don't they write the full description of it? Because you see where it says ERAF, but they're doing an abbreviation as if the public who's going to pay these taxes would know what it is. So then the next thing looking down there is basically it show on this detailed report, it shows how many school bonds that we have. It shows when they start, and then, but they don't show when they finish. And then looking all the way to the right, there's a dollar sign. It doesn't show how much you're going to pay on that school bond. And I said, man, we need some transparency here. We got a lot of bonds and a lot of things, and we're not showing the public how much they're paying on this. And on the back, and then on the next side of that page, it shows basically, I don't know if you call this a pie chart or something, but this is very interesting. So then, when I collected this information, I wrote a letter similar to all this and tried to get the interest of the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors and the county manager. They call him the executive. And then I went to see the tax collector man. His name was Alan Minato. This is about 4 years ago. And so luckily, he invited me into his office. He said, wow, this is very interesting. You got a lot of good ideas here. And he said, but he can't quite get to them yet because the reading at the back of your things, Mr. Emran, he sees it. He says, we've got the grand jury after us. And we've got this senior citizens groups after us because they're not getting their senior citizens exemptions on some of these school parcel taxes. And he says, we got to deal with them. They were here first before you even got here. And I said, wow, I just want to see that things can get done and improve things in our county here. So basically, my general idea is I like what the grand jury said, but they never mentioned that we should change over to an 11 by 17 tax bill, two-sided, put everything that we need nice and neat. I'd like to be part of the hearings that are scheduled to design it, and then send it to the counties and say, hey, this is what we need. Now, this is 11 by 17, and I went to Santa Clara County Print Shop, which is on Burger Drive, for instance, and they have the biggest Xerox machine that you've ever seen, and they can print on paper this big and even one or two sizes bigger than this. I spoke to the manager. So for bigger counties, I'd say, let's not worry about is this size going to be too big for them to design a tax bill. So basically, that's what I'm asking for is larger size bills. Make it nice and transparent so people will be basically understandable and pay their taxes and know. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention is in that section for senior citizens where they put a little star there, make it a little bit bigger so that senior citizens can see that there's a star and there can be possibly a senior citizen exemption on some of these parcel taxes, like school parcel taxes, or we have Valley Water that has a senior citizen things, and people don't really have the magnifying glass. They shouldn't have to do that. And so I see Sally Lieber. I think you're the member in my district, Sunnyvale. So yeah, I'd like to meet with you again and see how do we take steps and do this. But anyways, I don't know if you ever knew Alan Minato. He was our tax collector there. But I want to make rules that are so good that they would be applicable all around the state. That's why I took a special trip over here today. I want to see that hopefully this will be good because people don't understand what they've got. You got to pay. And now, another thing that I learned from studying that we should say somewhere in here, I studied the pie chart in another county. It's called El Dorado. I was trying to see what are they doing over there, right? And their tax collector person said that I don't know if this, I never knew this until recently. It says all these taxes that they collect on a property stays in their county. I never knew that before. Is that true? That property taxes all stay in the county and maybe the sales taxes go to the state and then they distribute it. So these are things that should be written right there because I never knew it all my life. I figured, look at all these taxes we got to pay, but I did not know what stays in Santa Clara County, whatever your home county is, what stays there and what goes to other areas. Like this ERAF, for instance, that's an educational that's some sort of an educational tax, and I figured that would be nice. So what I did is I added up the ERAF and added up some of these other school bonds and college bonds, and I figured I think it looks, and then part of the 1% tax goes to schools, and I figured it seems like it's more than 60% of the taxes goes to pay for the schools and the junior college. So I figured, why can't people be shown this so that way they can say, whoa, we better send our kid to that junior college because we're paying for that. Hey. And so in my district, we have the Mission College and it looks really nice. And I say, oh, I see my tax dollars going to the right place over there. Kind of makes me feel good that I see my taxes are going there. But now, in order to get a detailed report like this one, I had to go down there and wait an hour in line, and nobody's going to do that. No, the public just gets their little tiny bill here, and what they do is they bundle all the bonds together, and up until the last year or two, they weren't even putting a little tiny price there. So another little trick they're doing is they put CO retirement fund. And you wonder, what is that? CO retirement levy? Yeah, CO retirement levy. And I said, I don't know what that is. So I called them and they said, well, that's the county employees retirement levy. And I said, oh, okay, that sounds good. Well, there's plenty of room. Why can't we write that down? That sounds like an ERAF kind of a thing. I don't like abbreviations. And so I hope that if the board here, and including Mr. Gaines, who, hopefully they'll send him will they send him his packet to take a
Yes.
look at? Yeah, so I'd appreciate it, and that maybe, hopefully you'll like my ideas, and hopefully we can come back in the future and work on the design. And, and that way I can tell all my friends in Sunnyvale, for instance, hey, look, see that new things? I helped you, because otherwise people are saying, I don't know nothing, man. And they don't want to go down and wait an hour in line to try to get a more detailed printout. They don't want to do that. And I figured, let's make it nicer so people can understand it. And so that's about it. I hope I can come back at a future date. Like, when do they hold meetings? Only once a year? No, you must have other meetings that.
Well, we have a monthly meeting throughout the year, but then our taxpayer hearing is just one time in the year.
So in other words, if they like my ideas and they want to do something with it, do I have to wait till next year or what? I don't know what's the next procedure.
Our staff is here and has heard all your comments, and Mr. Doug Winslow, who's in the audience, can get your contact information, and then we would love to work with you on it.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I stamped my name and stuff on your copy, my name and address and stuff. So thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for being here, and we appreciate you both making the trip up here.
Yeah.
And appreciate this packet of information as well. Other questions or comments? Mr. Schaefer?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Alba. I'm a detailed person like you, and I very much appreciate your bringing these issues to our board. I might point out that your member is termed out in a couple of years. You might decide to run for the board. You'd be a much younger guy than me. I'm 86, so I want you to know that, take a look at something like that, because we need your kind of input.
Oh, you mean Sally's termed out in a couple of years?
That means he can't run again.
Not for a few years.
Who is?
That Mr. Gaines's job will be open for you or anyone else in 2 years.
Oh, I thought you have to live in his district near Apple.
You can live in any district. Well, I thought you lived in Mr. Gaines' district. I'm in Southern California.
Yeah.
My colleagues are the rest of the state, but we all come up for election in 2026.
That's good, yeah. It'd be interesting, because I like to help people.
And I also want to say that we got to be careful that we don't yield to efficiency at the expense of transparency.
Yeah.
I think the idea, like the size of the paper and the size of the type and all that, is very important for transparency.
Yes.
And, an older person like me, the people that have the money and the wealth and pay the taxes tend to be older, and we older people have a little more difficulty in seeing. All
Yeah.
the staff that we have that are working tend to be younger and in the
Yeah.
prime of life, and they have better eyesight. So
Right.
it's very important that we have appropriate size paper, we have appropriate size type. And, if you don't bring these to our attention, nobody else will unless it's me. I'm sort of the cranky guy here, but I'm not going to be here forever.
Yeah, I like to show people and say, hey, this is for your benefit. You're paying for it.
Yes.
You're paying for it. And I do think it's well worth the expense. If this is 11 by 17, my suggested size, I think it's well worth it that we design it and give the programming or software for this to each county and say, hey, this is what we suggest. This is people like it.
Yeah, well, I'm always telling everybody else how to run their business through the public's, what the public deals with, and I think that's our mission here, and I think you have a sense of that too. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate both of you coming up, and we will be in touch.
Good.
Mr. Winslow is here on the aisle, and we'll exchange contact information. Thank you. Ms. Thompson.
Yes, so Thank you so much for coming, Mr. Alba. It looks like you put a lot of thought into your presentation, so thank you so much. We'll review that after the hearing. Although the property tax bill, and that's issued by the tax collector, our agency really doesn't have oversight over the tax collector's office. But from at least our TRA office, we can look into some statutes to see. We believe, the tax bill is in statutes. I mean, all the components of a property tax bill are embedded in statutes, and we can find that. I certainly understand, yes, it is difficult to read that tax bill. I use a magnifying glass myself when I look at it, and it is hard, but I think it's a matter of, being able to fit it all on the tax bill. I won't speak for the tax collector, but I'm pretty certain that the reason for the size is so it fits in a regular envelope for mailing. But after the meeting, we'll get back to him on that. The California Legislative Analyst Office actually has an excellent resource on where your property tax dollars go. So we'll also give that to them. And most county auditors' offices also have some sort of publication or explanation in that regard as well. So we will reach out to Mr. Alba, and as Ms. Lieber indicated, she also will do so for her office. So she might be able to do something as far as direct contact with taxpayers, tax collector, their tax collectors association as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And now, members, we're a bit past our morning break. Did we want to take the 10-minute break now before we go into the reading of the written comments?
Can I just make one thing?
Certainly.
Before we go, can we call just to see if there's any other persons in the audience who'd like to make a public comment?
Yes. Is there anyone else in the audience or perhaps out in the lobby hearing our voices who would like to make an in-person comment today? Okay. Seeing none, we'll close the in-person comments. And we will take a 10-minute break now, returning at 11:32 and go to our written comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're just about ready. We have completed the testimony from presenters in the auditorium, and we're ready to go into the reading into the record of the public comments we've received in writing. And
Chair Lieber?
excuse me, Mr. Gaines?
Yeah, I apologize. I'm just not feeling well, and so I'm going to exit the meeting. I'm sorry. I don't know if I've got the flu or something, but I'm just having trouble even sitting in my seat here.
Oh, well, thank you for letting us know. We hope you feel better, and at least you were here to tell us about Apple Hill. And that's a really important takeaway from today. So thank
And
you so much.
taxpayers.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. I apologize.
Thank you. And we have Miss Amy Hendrickson, who is an appraiser in the Taxpayer Rights Advocate's Office, will be reading into the record the comments we have received in writing. Ms. Thompson, did you want to preference Ms. Hendrickson's comments?
Yes, I would. So for the written comments, we have 11 in advance, and we do have a few comments pertaining to the alcoholic beverage tax, as well as one other one that has to do with alcohol as well as property taxes. So we're going to go ahead and start with those first. So we'll take them a little bit out of order. So we're going to go through those first, and then after Ms. Hendrickson reads the comment, then I would like to just make some remarks and go from there. Okay, so we can go ahead and start with the first one. Dr. Friedman.
Good morning, Chair Lieber and honorable board members. My name is Amy Hendrickson from the Taxpayers' Rights Advocate Office. The first written public comment is from Serena Friedman, MD, of Four Sisters Ranch Winery and Vineyards. The comment states, currently, tax reporting in the state of California differs from federal tax reporting, creating hardship and compliance problems. For the new federal rules, taxes are based on alcohol class of the wine. And whereas the federal reporting as it affects our winery requires division of wine into category less than 16% alcohol, greater than 16% alcohol, and sparkling wine, 3 categories. The state requires 4 categories of alcohol classes. While even this is still burdensome, still it is so much more reasonable and sensible than what the state demands, which is to calculate taxes separating wines under 14% alcohol, 14 to 16% alcohol, greater than 16% alcohol, and sparkling wine. This is so much more work, double work, and it has no good purpose. Time consumption is a cost to small businesses like myself. Please, change this requirement to consistent with the federal reporting. If the federal government no longer sees any need to separate under 16% alcohol wines into 2 categories, then the state of California should have no justification to demand this extra unnecessary work. Actually, my suggestion when you let a woman think about a solution to simplify things is to average out all the taxes you get divided by the number of gallons being reported and come up with one single average tax amount per gallon that will accomplish the same cash flow and leave it as a simple form. How many gallons did you produce, or how many gallons did you sell? Multiply this one tax multiplier amount no matter what the alcohol class and be done with it. I cannot understand why so much reporting time is made necessary for the ultimate goal of collecting tax money as long as it's accomplished. In short, let a real businesswoman direct you, not a bureaucrat. That concludes this public comment, so Ms. Thompson can remark.
We appreciate Dr. Friedman's comments expressing concerns about the categories of reporting for wine. After the comment was received, I coordinated with the technical advisor of special taxes to our agency's executive director, and she indicated that 16% that Ms. Friedman is referring to is up to the alcohol content to 16% for federal purposes. Well, there are reporting requirements for wine by the gallon into the categories based on percentages for still wine, not over 14%, and for over 14%, and then sparkling wine, which are part of the wine growers tax return. That's for our agency. The alcoholic beverage tax is 20 cents a gallon for all wine, regardless of alcohol content. The reporting for wine on the federal level by wine category has more tiers to it than California. There are currently discussions with CDTFA, who is under an agreement with us that collects the alcoholic beverage tax on our behalf and audits to determine if the change in reporting could be done to that of the federal percentages and if there would be an impact to audits. A statutory change would be required to change those current categories by percentages of alcohol in the wine as that is embedded in law. Therefore, again, a statutory change would be needed. So that concludes the comments for that one. If there's any comments from the board or questions, we can address it, or we can move to the next comment that was also for alcohol.
Mr. Schaefer.
Thank you. I just saw Ben's comments on our liquor tax being one of the lowest in the nation. Is that so? Are we in the lowest 10 or the lowest 1? Do you know where we stand among the 50 states?
We haven't quite read that one. Could we read that one again and then I come back to you? We haven't read that comment yet. That is the next comment. But I don't know all of the different reporting levels within other states.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's really any of the board's business. It's a legislative concern that would set maybe the tax, but I'm concerned that we really don't want to be the lowest. I don't really need to be the highest, and I don't see there's any relevancy between trying to cover the cost of alcohol-related injury, but I think that we should be able to have a tax that's high enough that it produces some money for other public interests, you know, our highways, our hospitals, and our schools. And if we do have the lowest taxes in the nation, that's a policy issue that could come of concern to us because we're really in the business of equalizing all public interest within California. And I would like to see that our legislative representative here, who does such a thorough job, would be mindful of the fact that the actual amount of the liquor tax is something that we should be apprised of once in a while as to how we stand within the taxing jurisdictions of America. I think we should really want to be able to pay a little more in liquor tax so we have a little more to help with education and other problems. That's my position as a board member. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Member Schaefer. I appreciate that. I'm happy to consult with the Special Taxes Technical Advisor to find out information about the different various states to see where they are compared to California as far as the amounts and get back to you.
And I appreciate Ben's comment. Thank you.
Thank you. And so we'll go ahead at this time and Amy will read Ben's comment and then I'll give a few more remarks. Thank you.
This is the next public written comment submitted from Ben. He states, I drink alcohol, but also recognize its inherent negative impacts. CA's taxes on alcohol don't cover the cost of alcohol-related injury and damage across our state. The taxes are not significant enough to act as a disincentive to unhealthy, unsafe consumption. Please increase our alcohol taxes tenfold so we are no longer one of the lowest in the nation. That concludes this public comment, so Ms. Thompson can remark.
Yeah, I just spoke to that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Please. Thank you. So we do appreciate Ben's comments. With respect to the alcoholic beverage tax, he expresses concerns with the price of alcohol and wishes it to be higher. In California, the alcoholic beverage tax is charged to distributors, manufacturers, and importers of the alcoholic beverages. It is not a tax that's charged to the consumers. I did want to point that out. The type of alcohol, including beer and wine, as well as the rate, is specified in statute as part of the Revenue and Taxation Code section. However, the amount of tax charged to distributors and manufacturers and importers is likely to impact charges to the consumer. So I'm, again, happy to reach out and find out some additional information about where we are as far as how much per the gallon is charged, and if we're on the low end, high end, middle end, or...
Thank you
thanks.
so much. Our next letter.
The next public comment is from Chauncey McKern, which included 4 separate issues. Alcohol taxes, the federal government, TTB, charges taxes by proof gallons, but CA charges taxes on the entire beverage wine by wine gallons. So if we make a drink that is 10% alcohol and 90% water, CA taxes the whole drink, including the water. It would be best if alcoholic excise taxes were abolished altogether and just tax the drinks with sales tax at the end buyer. If that can't be done, at least use proof gallons to match what the TTB does. Number 2, California business taxes are exorbitantly high. We run a craft brewery and probably have to maintain 20 different permits. They all cost a lot of money, for which we get almost zero benefit, and many of the CA taxes, including the CA business income taxes, are based on gross sales rather than net sales. So even if we don't make a penny in profit, as has been the case during much of COVID, we still have to pay taxes on approximately $500,000 in gross sales. Taxes should be assessed on profits, not gross sales. Number 3, CA property taxes are outrageously high. I worked all my life to buy a 47-foot sailboat and have to pay approximately $7,000 in property taxes for it every year. But I don't get any more benefit out of the marinas or waterways than a sailboat that costs only $300, or even the people who just come out for the day and put their small boats in the water. There's no logic to charging by the value of the boat or other property when everyone is getting the same benefit or no benefit at all. This same argument is true for property taxes in general. All of us homeowners are paying through the nose to support public schools, roads, infrastructure, and many other projects mandated by counties and states. But individuals who don't own homes or other property, including illegal aliens, are getting the same benefit from the schools, roads, hospitals, etc. Where is the fairness in that? Number 4, automobile registration fees are exorbitant. I have a 2017 Ford F-250 pickup truck, and it cost me about $735 to register it last year in CA. I have a West Point classmate that lives in Georgia with exactly the same truck. It costs him $38 to register his truck, and when he went to the GA DMV, he said he wanted to register his truck. They told him to have a seat. Before he could get to a seat, they called him to the counter for service and said their goal is to serve at least 94% of their customers before they sit down. You can spend half a day at the CA DMV before getting to the counter, assuming the DMV is even open that day. And the folks there don't seem to care about serving you. We need an attitude check at the DMV and the entire CA government. They've forgotten who they work for. That concludes this public comment, so Ms. Thompson can remark.
So we appreciate Mr. McKern taking the time to provide his comments. He expresses concerns on several areas of taxation. Vehicle registration is administered by the Department of Motor Vehicles, which we do not oversee, so I can't address those concerns. Similarly, we don't have oversight over agencies that may require a brewery to have a different permit or fees to maintain them, or the Franchise Tax Board. However, we are aware that the California Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control does charge fees for licensing, and they are issued to companies that sell, distribute, or manufacture alcoholic beverage. But as far as our agency, we do not charge to have an account for the alcoholic beverage tax. Any permit or license fees that the taxpayer may be concerned with, they would need to approach that other agency that's not within our purview. Also, as to his concerns about the alcoholic beverage taxes, it's about the California excise tax for wine and alcohol and the amount charged per gallon. This beverage tax is not a tax to the consumer, it's on the distributor level. So the type of alcohol, including beer and wine, as well as the rate, are in the revenue and taxation codes. So in order to change that per gallon rate would require a statutory change. The other area, as to his concerns about property tax on the boats, for California property tax purposes, boat is considered personal property, and it is assessed at market value as of the January 1st lien date. The corresponding property taxes on that boat would be approximately 1% of the market value of that boat. So in order to change the assessment of a boat, it would require a statutory change. If the taxpayer believes the market value of his boat is lower than the assessed value, then he's welcome to contact the assessor's office for a review or file an assessment appeal. But based on his comments, it doesn't seem he actually disagrees with his market value of the house, what he's taxed at. It's more of that he's using the waterways similar to smaller boats that are paying less tax. We will reach out to Mr. McKern and provide some information about property taxation as far as boats, as well as the alcoholic beverage tax. Unless the board members have any comments or questions, then we will read the next public comment.
Mr. Vasquez.
Just a quick one. Thank you for the reading, and I was listening, and I sympathize a little bit with Mr. Kern in terms of the tax. The regulatory burdens on small businesses, especially craft breweries, which is a very competitive business, I'm hearing. And I understand that California is probably one of the largest states with the most breweries. I guess maybe because we're 40 million people in the state of California, so that might account for some of it. In terms of the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration administers the sales use of alcohol beverage tax and the obligation to the small businesses. And I think you mentioned in your remarks that, the best thing probably is, I don't know, do they have a taxpayer rights advocate in CDTFA?
So the CDTFA does have a taxpayer rights advocate. So because they administer the tax and collect it on our behalf, if there was an issue with an alcoholic beverage taxpayer, then that CDTFA TRA would coordinate with myself in my office to do that. So, yeah.
Okay. Because I was going to recommend that they reach out to them, but I guess if it comes back to you, at the end of the day, I guess it looks like you're doing that anyway.
Yeah. So yeah, but we'll reach out to him by email. We have his information, so we'll gather that and also look at some of the resources on the CDTFA website, as well as about the alcohol beverage tax, that we can refer to him.
Thank you.
Great. Next letter, please.
The next public comment that I am reading is from David Keller. He states, "Property tax in California is in need of reform. The current system creates an inequity that undermines support for taxation and the government services that taxes fund. My property tax for a 2-bed, 1-bath house in Oakland is just under $12,000 a year. On my block, there are a number of houses with identical floor plans. The home right next to mine has a property tax bill of under $3,000, and it's sitting vacant. On the other side of me is a 3-bed, 2-bath with a property tax bill of $7,600, occupied by a retiree. These tax bills are neither fair nor just. It is understandable that our great state would want to keep taxes low for retirees, but the current system is creating perverse incentives and is undermining the legitimacy of property taxes. Please reform the property tax system now. It has been almost 50 years since Prop 13, and it is high time for reform. That concludes this public comment. If Ms. Thompson can remark.
So we appreciate Mr. Keller's comments about property taxation in California. He expresses concerns about paying $12,000 a year when his owners of a similar home next door are paying much less, and he wants reform of the property tax system. Proposition 13 was passed by the voters in 1978, as you are aware, by constitutional amendment, which added Article 13A to the Constitution, and it continues today. Proposition 13 does limit the statewide property tax rate to 1% plus the rate to cover locally approved bonded indebtedness. It also limits increases in assessed value to a maximum of 2% a year as far as its base year value. So the California's current property tax system is very much an acquisition-based system. So it is based on when you bought a house and how much you paid, and it's limited to a 2% cap every year. So the exception is when a property undergoes a change in ownership or new construction, then it is reassessed to market value. Therefore, after that, it's basically increased each year, factored annually, applying an annual inflation factor that our agency does publish. And yes, there can be disparities in assessed value for identical houses in the same neighborhood because they were purchased at different times at different prices. So in order to change the way property taxes are assessed on a home, that would require a constitutional amendment. So he would need to seek that information with his assembly person or senator.
Thank you. May we have the next letter?
We received a hearing submission from Bruce Sierra, but there was no content other than his name, email, and address. Ms. Thompson?
So, yes, Mr. Sierra did submit a comment that just happened with his name and contact information.
Your mic's on.
So, sorry, thank you. Yeah, as she indicated, Mr. Sierra did not include comments, just his contact information. We did reach out to him after he submitted the written comment to ask that he submit additional comments if he wished to have them, and we haven't received them. So we'll go on to the next comment, and although if he's on the AT&T phone lines, then we're certainly happy to hear his comment then.
Thank you.
The next comment is from an anonymous person. It reads, I believe only property owners who pay property taxes should vote on legislation impacting their tax rates. It is very easy to vote to assess property owners more and more when you are not paying the bill. Property owners in Nevada County are being devastated by ever-increasing fire insurance rates. I think there should be a moratorium on property tax increases for anyone on the CA unfair plan. Frankly, property tax rates should be lowered as fire and homeowners rates increase. Living in CA becomes more burdensome by the minute. It's not sustainable. That concludes this public comment, so Ms. Thompson can remark.
Thank you.
We appreciate this anonymous commenter expressing concerns about the various tax rates. Under Proposition 13, the property tax rate is fixed at 1% on a property's assessed value, and the taxpayer mentions the impact on tax rates from voting. We believe that means voting for local bond measures such as school bonds, and beyond that statewide 1% tax rate, the law does allow additional rates to be added to cover locally approved bonded indebtedness. Therefore, if people in a particular community voted on a bond measure and approved it, that amount will be collected on the property tax bill as calculated by the county auditor. The county auditor would again determine the rates to charge that are covered to cover that debt, essentially. We do realize the taxpayer is frustrated with increased fire and homeowners insurance rates, but property tax rates are not tied to those. As far as limiting rights to vote, we can't really address that. Our agency doesn't have jurisdiction over areas of voting. Unless the board members have any comments or questions, we can go to the next public comment.
Mr. Vasquez.
Just a quick one. You know, it's come up a couple times already today, and I was wondering, on our website, do we have like a link or information that it kind of breaks down or explains to taxpayers, especially property owners, the senior community, that they can apply for exemptions, whether it's a parcel tax or just straight up property tax?
So our Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office, we do have an information sheet that covers property tax assistance programs for seniors, and that is one of them. One of the components talks about special assessments, which are a separate charge, not ad valorem taxes on the tax bill, and that some do have that. There is a provision of law, especially for schools, where they do have, I think it's for age 65 and over. It might be 62 and over, but yes, that includes a component for that.
And I know it varies probably county to county, because, for example, in Santa Monica, I know we have one parcel tax that, you know, I think the fellow that was testifying earlier was asking, you know, what is the dollar amount and when does these things end? Because some of them have sunset dates and some don't. Some are like indefinite. But if they're seniors, they do qualify for exemptions. And it'd be nice to, if it's not already specified on our website, that might be something that we should look at.
Yeah, they would, my understanding is, so, I mean, if there are exemptions, that kind of would be included in the actual measure that was passed. So I think most tax collectors' offices' websites have information about them. I mean, there's numbers, so all the tax bill, one of the components is next to all of the special assessment or direct levy charges, there's actually an asterisk that, I mean, if there's enough room, I'll say that there's a phone number. In some cases, there's a lot of special assessments, so maybe they don't have the phone number itself. And those phone numbers are identified in an insert to a tax bill. But a taxpayer can actually contact that agency to ask about exemptions. But some tax collectors' websites do have information about it. I know Yolo County does, because Yolo County does have an exemption if you're over a certain age. And I'm sorry, I don't know the age. We never took advantage of it.
Now that you mention that, I'm wondering if it makes sense. I don't know if it falls within an LTA, but to put something out that would encourage, I guess, all assessors to put it out there. Because I know, like in certain cities, even within LA County, they don't, you know, you get your tax bill, it doesn't say that you qualify if you're a senior. You have to go out and do that research. And I'm just thinking we should probably be on, especially if we're on the advocates side, is just to put it out there and let people know.
Yeah, I think for us, it would be difficult because we have oversight over county assessor's office. So our agency's letter to assessor really are geared toward the assessment side of things, not really the tax collection side. And in this respect, it might not even be covered under ad valorem property taxes. The exemptions might fall under the special assessments, but I'm not sure. But I'm happy to look into, the portions of it is where those school bonds are, because that is where the exemptions come into play, is mostly on the schools, like the Unified School District bonds. I'm not seeing it on the college level. So I'll try to find some additional information and update the board members as we kind of.
Appreciate it. Yeah, because you're right. A lot of them are construction school bonds, but I know like in our county, we have college bonds, and we even have city and county bonds that are also attached to your property tax.
Okay, well, thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate that. I'll find out a little bit more information about whether it's
Thank you.
city or state, county. Thanks.
Ms. Hendrickson?
This next public comment is from Matthew Sandoval, who states, I would like to see property taxes adjusted based on productivity in urban and suburban locales, specifically higher tax rates for vacant buildings and lower for high-density developments. We need to incentivize housing and discourage abandoned, underutilized properties. In my area, there are vast areas of abandoned commercial properties, yet the few new condos built start at 500,000 for a studio. The BOE should leverage the tax code to address this imbalance. So long as there's a tax benefit for commercial landlords to leave empty buildings, home prices will continue to remain high and urban blight will continue. That concludes this public comment, so Ms. Thompson can remark.
We appreciate Mr. Sandoval's comments about seeing an increase in the higher tax rates for vacant buildings will lower tax rates for higher density developments, which are high-rise condos or apartment buildings that have more people living in them, basically. The property tax rate is again set by California Constitution, specifically Section 1 of Article 13A. For real property, that would include houses, condominiums, developments, apartment buildings, and that property tax rate is applied to the assessed value. The BOE implements and clarifies property tax rules. We don't have the authority to change the rate. The county assessor's office does determine the property's assessed value, and regardless of the occupancy of that, that 1% applies to all assessable properties. Although this tax rate is outside of our jurisdiction, we are aware that some cities charge a vacancy tax on owners who keep their property vacant for more than a specific time of the year. The vacancy tax is voter approved by city residents and administered by the city. But again, we're only aware of a handful. Unless the board members have any comments or questions?
Mr. Vasquez?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question. I really appreciate Mr. Sandoval's comments and suggestions about incentivizing housing. His recommendation to leverage the tax law to utilize and convert vacant commercial buildings and properties to meet our housing needs is an issue that legislators, the governor, and we've kind of tackled with a little bit during our hearing. And so I appreciate him bringing that to our attention again. I think it's something we should consider in more detail, moving on as we begin to explore some possible creative ways or even some possible legislation that we could assist some of the members, both on the Assembly and the Senate side. So I just want to thank Mr. Sandoval for raising that issue as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hendrickson?
The next written public comment is from Patricia Hebert. It stated, keep property or Prop 13 intact, no increased taxes. That concludes this public comment, so Ms. Thompson can remark.
So we appreciate Ms. Herbert's comments expressing her desire to have no changes are made to Prop 13 that may increase taxes. Basically, again, the Prop 13 sets a cap on the values as to increases in properties assessed value, specifically the factored base year value. So any change to this California property tax system would require a constitutional amendment. So as long as the constitutional amendment doesn't come into play, Prop 13 is pretty safe. Unless the board members have any comments, we can go to the next comment.
Please.
This next public comment is from another anonymous person. Currently, the process of requesting a reassessment of property assessed values are heavily backlogged. Taxpayers have to wait for up to 6 to 12 months to get a hearing in front of the board. In the meanwhile, they must ensure the timely payment of these property taxes, which are under review. In the event that the hearing is in their favor, they do get a reduction in their assessed property value. The payment of the refunds plus interest for their excess taxes is only available after an additional few months. This leaves the burden of paying incorrect large amounts of tax on the taxpayer, who has to wait for months to get their refunds and interest back. The county has to fast-track the process for reviewing property value reassessment so that it is completed before the deadline for the first installment in December. In case it is not possible to complete it by then, the taxpayer should be exempt from paying the property taxes until the correct amount has been decided by the board. To ensure taxpayers are not unfairly taxed larger than what is due towards their property tax. To bring more transparency to this process, the SCC Assessor's Office should also provide the basis of any newly changed assessment amounts, either due to sale or new construction, in terms of either comparable properties considered or other factors taken into account to determine the assessed value of the property. Thank you. This concludes this public comment, so Ms. Thompson can remark.
Thank you.
We appreciate this anonymous commenter expressing concerns about the assessment appeals process and the time it can take to have their hearing heard before the AAB and to receive a refund after the appeals board decision, if the AAB decides that. And also that the thought by the taxpayer that they should be exempt from paying taxes until the AAB has made a decision. Our agency does prescribe tax rules, property tax rules, and issues instructional documents to assist assessment appeals boards in their duties, although we don't have oversight over the assessment appeals board or the clerk for scheduling that hearing. The waiting time for an applicant to have their appeal heard depends on each county's workload, and in more populated areas, that waiting time can be longer. The commenter indicated that in their county, it can take 6 to 12 months for an appeal to be heard. Our office reviewed the law after we received this public comment, and according to the Revenue and Taxation Code Section 1604, it allows local appeals board to hear an application within 2 years of that valid filing. Property tax law also provides when property tax bills must be paid in order to avoid imposition of penalties, and the due dates are also dependent on law. So unless a statutory change would be made to any of those tax due dates or any appeals application deadlines as far as appeals boards hearing them, that would require a change in law. Due to the lag time between when taxes are due and when the appeals board appeals may be filed by an applicant, it would be difficult for a county tax collector's office to exempt that property from paying property taxes on the reassessment until the correct amount is determined by the AAB. So if the board's decision is favorable to the taxpayers, then essentially what the county auditor's office would involve recalculating the property taxes based on that reduction and then issue any refunds applicable to that. Or if the second installment has not yet been paid, then they would adjust the second installment bill for that reflect. We will look at the public comment submission form to see if there is an email address and reach out to the commenter to provide some information on the R&T code sections that set forth the various timeframes, and then also direct them to that particular county's clerk of the board website that talks about the general timeframe for hearing appeals in that county. I will say, let's see, as far as transparency, as far as the process in obtaining information from the assessors, how they determine the reassessed value, that is currently in statute. Revenue and Taxation Code Section 408 allows an assessee to request information from the assessor and to inspect its property, his or her property records, as well as how that property's value was determined. That's outside of the assessment appeals process. There is also a code section that's addressed in the appeals process for a formal exchange of information during that appeal pursuant to Revenue and Taxation Code Section 1606.
Thank you. Ms. Hendrickson?
This next written public comment is from Mark Apton. It reads, "Hello. I think Prop 19 should be repealed. This tax cost will be passed on to renters. It has already made a major increase in housing costs, especially for single-family rental homes. Prop 19 is very poorly written and hard to enforce and has many loopholes. Thanks, Mark Apton. That concludes this public comment, so Ms. Thompson can remark.
Thank you.
So we appreciate Mr. Apton's comments. The comments are made in connection with the intergenerational transfer portion of Proposition 19, more commonly referred to as the parent-child transfer exclusion. We sympathize with the taxpayers' concern that the intergenerational transfer provisions of Proposition 19 were effective with transfers occurring on or after February 16th, 2021. They do limit a taxpayer's ability to transfer certain real property to their children without increases in property taxes, since property tax law no longer allows the property tax to be excluded on rental property. If someone inherits rental property, the property must be reassessed to market value based on that date of change in ownership. The date of death would be considered the date of change in ownership if it was part of inheritance. Unfortunately, it is likely that the property owner would raise rents to try to cover some of those higher taxes. However, Prop 19 was a constitutional amendment approved by the voters with implementing legislation signed into law later in 2021, adding Section 63.2 to the Revenue and Taxation Code. So in order to change this, constitutional amendment would be required and also legislative change to the R&T Code. Taxpayer may wish to contact their Assembly and Senate senator office to ask about that. We are aware of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association that has been involved in trying to protect Proposition 13 and then also defend taxpayers against property tax increases. And they did try to have initiative on the ballot to change those intergenerational transfer provisions. In the past, they did not pass, but the taxpayer may wish to do that. We can reach out to the taxpayer and just direct them to the taxpayers, Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, if they'll do that, and explain how, that it would require a constitutional amendment, so they're aware of what future actions they would need to take.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Hendrickson.
So that concludes the public comments as far as written. We do have one, we can go to the phone lines, of course, but we had one comment from Miss Ann Gray, who submitted comments, indicated she would be on the phone lines, but she indicated if she wasn't able to be on the phone lines, if we could read it for her, so.
Please.
Okay, so, could we maybe go to the phone lines?
We'll take the
first?
phone line
Okay,
first.
and then if not, then I'll go ahead and read it.
Great, thank you. And before we go to the phone lines, we also have Ms. Stephanie Riscano, who would like to make public comments in person. And we've got a comment card from her, so we'll just go to that and then do the folks on the phone lines, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you wish to make a comment,
Oh,
please
excuse
press
me,
1.
AT&T operator, we won't take the phone line just yet, but we're just in
Oh,
a
I
few minutes. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Stephanie Rosito, I'm from Sutter County, and there's one group of people that you've totally forgotten. Oh, okay, you've totally forgotten one group of people. I just happen to be a member of that, aside from being a senior, although I'm not claiming that, I only claim the first 29 years. But that's disabled veterans, and that's military who have been hurt. We've lost our ability to earn the money that we had before. You can only get a $140,000 deduction in the value of your home if you're a 100% disabled veteran. I know people that deserve more than 100%, but they're only getting 70 and 80 and losing their homes. I lost mine by fraud, and I wasn't able to do anything about it because that was 18 surgeries ago, and I buried my son during that time. But for getting a home now, there's no way that a disabled veteran can. Sure, we have CalVed, a little bit less interest, but our income is so low, we don't qualify for anything. You can't qualify for, I hate to say that, the welfare benefits. We pay our own way, we have the VA, we have, if we have a military retirement. But paying these ridiculous prices and the taxes, nobody is considering that we serve our country and we should get a break. We gave our lives for the Constitution, and our oath has never expired. I'd go defend everyone in here with my life if called upon to do it. I wouldn't even think about it. That's just the way I am. And I also said I would protect the Constitution. Now, I personally do not believe California has a good constitution. We've had to amend it over 900 times. We had a nice constitution in 1849. We changed it in 1879, but we're forgetting our veterans. And those who have given the most should have a little bit of consideration in all your counties and through CalVet, something that will be helpful. I noticed that there's a lot of abandoned properties in my own area, the old Kmart. And we have a joke that it's not a joke, it's true, one of our supervisors and some of our upper people believe in committing arson. Marysville Hotel, they had the roads closed prior to it burning. And we know that the State Theater is probably going to be the next accidental fire. The mall and where they put in Costco is too. So take the empty ones, and why not have a National Guard? That's an organization I served with, and give them training in building. Okay, put on the inside and work with youth and take these abandoned commercial properties and make them another use, maybe commercial at the bottom and living quarters on top. Some people are homeless only because of economics, not because of addiction or some of this other stuff that I like to avoid for hopeless encampments, which around the apartment building I now live in, there's a lot of them. Now, the ones that are not drug addicted, I'll help out. The drug ones, I'm scared. I've lost 18 surgeries worth. I've lost a lot of my physical abilities. I haven't lost fear, unfortunately. But please consider on taxes the impact it has, and consider the groups that have given their all and are priced way out of the market, and many that are having to sell their homes or got foreclosed on because they can't afford it because taxes and bills are going up. We all know, okay, reduce your expenses or raise your income. Well, the income can't be raised, but the government means to start with cutting off all the excess stuff. I've been involved in a study on that, and there's a lot of waste and abuse that the IGs aren't doing anything about. Well, anyway, I'm sorry, I'm just yakking on. Please consider the disabled veteran, the one who's now wheelchair bound. Yeah, there might be a couple people, organizations that can help them build a smart home. But what about the average one that's just maybe missing some limbs or have other problems, medical, shrapnel stuck in them, whatever the problem is? Help them. Lower it so they can afford something. And passing it on to renters, of course they do. In our area, they make sure they raise it 10% every year and add fees to it. So the renters groups, they may not be property owners, but they're paying the taxes, so one way or another. But please have a heart. That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm hopeful if we hang on to the comment card, can we connect Ms. Fucano with when we have the Veterans Work Group meeting? Is there a way to do that?
Yes,
To put her on the email notification for the Veterans Work Group meetings, and I'll pass it on to Ms. Cicchetti as well with her contact information. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming in. We appreciate your comments on behalf of all California veterans. We will reach out to her after that. I am aware that the current law for the disabled veterans exemption does require 100% disability. They also have another criteria tied to employability. There's a basic exemption as well as low-income exemption, so we will look into that and provide comments as well.
Okay, thank you. So I think now is the time to go to our AT&T operator. And operator, could you tell us if there's anyone on the line who would like to make public comments on this item?
Certainly, ladies and gentlemen, if you wish to make a public comment, please press 1, then 0 on your telephone keypad. You may withdraw your comment at any time by repeating the 1-0 command. If you're using a speakerphone, please pick up the handset before pressing the numbers. Once again, if you would like to make a comment, please press 1, then 0. And first, we're going to the line for Sherry Duffy. Please go ahead.
Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh.
Yes, please go
Hello?
ahead.
Can you still hear me now? Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much. So I just wanted to start off by saying that I unfortunately, my mother and I both unfortunately voted for Proposition 19. I was busy in the home in Sunnyvale taking care of her where she died September 4th, 2021 from cancer. There was absolutely zero advertisement about what Proposition 19 was really going to do. And what it really did was it took away the parent-to-child transfer exclusion, which has devastated me personally and many, 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 many people. The fact that there was no truth, really, I feel, to the whole advertising for Prop 19. My mom and I voted for it. We would always discuss our votes. I lived there with her together because we thought, okay, it's going to help people, older people transfer their property tax somewhere else if they move. And then there was something else about fire victims or something along those lines. But there was absolutely zero truth to really what it was going to do. And so, as I said, unfortunately, we both voted for it. It barely passed. I can guarantee with 100% certainty, if the truth had been told about what Proposition 19 was really going to do to people who own their homes and who would like to leave it to their children, I had no savings. I am working currently 2 jobs. I've lived in this home my entire life. The property taxes, my mom was paying on $71,000. I am now paying on almost $2.4 million, minus the $1 million exemption, which quite frankly, paying on $1.4 million when you have nothing is quite exorbitant. And it's, like I just said, I'm working 2 jobs. I don't know what I'm going to do. I have every intention on staying in this home and dying here, just like my father did in 2009 and just like my mother did in 2021. I just feel that the property taxes are exorbitant. Not only that, I just feel really betrayed by, I don't know who puts these things on the ballot and how these things really work, but the fact that my mom and I would have never voted for something like this had she known. Oh, well, then we did find out, but we could not get in to see a lawyer to do anything. We couldn't get in to see a lawyer in San Francisco area, Alameda area, San Mateo, you name it. We couldn't get in to see an attorney because they were just bombarded with people trying to beat this deadline, right? And of course, obviously, we couldn't get in to see anything. We couldn't beat it. So here I am. This is not what my mom wanted for me. It's not what I certainly wanted for myself. And I can't imagine. There's so many people that have taken care of their parents, their elderly parents, at their homes, and I just feel betrayed by, I don't know, the county, the state, whoever puts these things on the ballots, because they really weren't forthright with what Prop 19 was really going to do.
Okay, thank you so much for your comments. We appreciate it.
Hi, could I have a comment?
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes, I enjoy very much your presentation about there being zero truth sometimes and things barely passing, but I want you to know, I may be a little older than you. I'm 86, and I live in a retirement home on the ocean where my neighbors and I, we can have dogs and cats and visitors and free little shuttle to go shopping and whatnot, and it's only costing like $5,000 a month. I can appreciate that your mother had a $71,000 property, back in the old days, and that today you have a $1,400,000 property. I think you have to evaluate that maybe you might take $1,200,000 or something like that and invest it wisely or in a mutual fund or a bank account or whatever and go live in some retirement facility with exceptional people, with your pets, close to your family. There's a lot of
Excuse me,
alternatives.
sir.
I know that's a difficult.
Excuse me, sir.
Pardon me?
I said, excuse me, sir. I find that comment, please no offense, I don't know you personally, but I find it to be absurd. I've heard those types of comments from other people. Oh, you've got a $1 million, $2 million house. Go ahead, sell it. You can get some money. You can move somewhere else. I don't want to move. I've lived in this house for 53 years, and I have no intentions of moving. I'm working 2 jobs. I guess maybe I'll have to take on a third. I really don't know.
Yeah,
but I'm not interested in moving to some retirement community anywhere.
I can see that because you have familiar family and friends and neighborhood that you know and love. I can see that. That means a lot. So I can appreciate your point of view there. It's just that I really want the best for each of our taxpayers, and I don't think you're having a fair situation, but I'm not sure just how to solve it. We have to deal with large numbers of people, and there are a lot of people in your situation, and we're trying to find the right answer. I appreciate your sharing your situation with us, and any suggestions you have that might be worked into law, I would take them because I want you to be happy. But I also have to respect.
Yeah, give us
all the
another
other people.
chance. Give us another chance. Give us another chance, and be honest with this Prop 19. People would vote for it, but take away the repeal. Take away the parent. You can't taking away something without letting people know what you're taking away is fraud, and that's wrong. There's parts of Prop 19 that my mom and I voted for that we thought that was it. We had no idea that what we were doing was taking away the parent-to-child transfer exclusion because it was not advertised. It was not ever said on TV, on radio, on nothing. On nothing. I mean, sure, maybe I've heard that at the very bottom of some sort of document it said in very small fine print that that's what it was going to do. But, like I said, I was busy taking care of my mom who died at home from cancer, and, I didn't read any fine print, and neither did she. Okay. And so we do, I know that she would, it would be nice to give the taxpayers an honest shot at repealing parts of Proposition 19, because I would bet my life on the fact that the parent-to-child transfer exclusion would be put back into play.
Okay.
Yes, well, you're one of our finest citizens and finest taking care of your mom. I appreciate that very much. We all have had those opportunities, and you seem to have done an excellent job on it. I wish you the best, and I will give some thought to the problem. I apologize on behalf of the state that we don't have the most factual discussions on some of these propositions when they put out the printed material. And we all of us, I assure you, are searching for a good solution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Schaefer, and thank you to the caller. And we have Ms. Thompson who will comment briefly.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Duffy, for commenting. I'm so sorry for the loss of your mother. We do appreciate the comment regarding the $1 million cap in Proposition 19 as far as the the parent-child or grandparent-grandchild exclusion. We do understand that having a dollar cap isn't good for taxpayers with homes over $1 million, and that's hard to come by if you're in the Bay Area or in the beach communities. However, the voter-approved initiative did include that dollar cap that is up to $1 million cap but it is adjusted biannually, adjusted for inflation. So I just wanted to point out that, again, for transfers that occurred between February 16th, 2023 and February 2025, that value cap did increase to the sum of the property's factored base value plus $1,022,600, and that is published in a letter to assessors by our agency. And if, again, to adjust that cap, it would require a constitutional amendment, and I encourage you to contact your legislature to try to do that.
Thank you. Thank you, caller. And we'll go on to the next call, AT&T operator.
Thank you. And next we go into line 4, Gina St. Louis. Please go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay, so my name is Gina C. Louie, and I'm asking that the state help us to save affordable homes and businesses. 2020 Proposition 19 has a slow drip devastating effect on Californian families as they only find out upon the passing of a loved one or landlord. Help us to fix Prop 19 by requesting the legislators draft relief, or get everyone to register at repealthedeathtax.com so the sponsors will start the third campaign. People can find out more at forcalifornians.com. I know some people have said, hey, you're lucky, sell the property for $1 million, $2 million, or what have you. But there have been recent studies that show that $1 million, like in San Francisco Bay Area, only will last you 13 years. So people will outlive their assets. This is not a good thing for seniors or disabled. I want to remind everyone, Prop 5 must take a dive. No on Prop 5. We don't need to open the floodgates to taxation in an already highly taxed state. I was part of the 20 Billion Reasons group that helped to get the largest bond in California history removed from the ballot. Is expected to return in 2026, especially if Prop 5 passes. So we're hoping that the Board of Equalization will help us to reduce taxes as opposed to allowing people to get taxed out of the state. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you so much. Ms. Thompson, did you have any brief comments? Response? It sounds like some political activism there, so
yes,
we're limited in what we can do.
Exactly. So, yeah, but we do appreciate Ms. Saloui's comments for providing, excuse me, especially the website link for those who may be listening that might want to look into that to sign up for the repealing the different tax.
Thank you. AT&T moderator, can we take our next call?
Yes. Next we go into the line for Kate Oakland. Please go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for having this discussion. Just want to make sure everyone can hear me.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So I am following the last two callers. My mother had dementia for 20 years, and when she was diagnosed, I made the decision to keep her in her home, which is also the home that I grew up in. Not knowing that Prop 19 was going to do me a great disservice. I don't know if any of you have ever had to deal with caring for an elderly parent, but it's ridiculously expensive. And so for 20 years, I kept her basically a vegetable in a wheelchair. Every morning she woke up, and I prayed that she wouldn't, because there was no point to her life. And so spending a ton of money on that, thinking that I would inherit her house and her low property taxes. Sadly, she passed away after Prop 19 was passed. And so now it's my burden, and my property taxes went from $3,000 a year to, I'm looking at two tax bills right here, which amount to $31,000. So I've wasted all my money on taking care of her, and I have nothing left now to pay these ridiculous property taxes. So basically, my mother did not die in time. And so I really am appealing to you for some form of assistance And I know I can sell the house and I can leave, but like the other woman who spoke, I don't want to leave this home. It's my house. Thank you.
Thank you so much for calling us, and we're very sorry to hear of your loss and the situation that it has raised for you. And I hope that you'll continue to follow the many efforts that are out there online dealing with Prop 19. Okay, Ms. Thompson, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just again, I'm so sorry, Ms. Oakland, for your loss and your struggles at this point. That's a substantial increase, so that really illustrates how that particular aspect of the intergenerational transfer provisions of Proposition 19 hurt taxpayers. So I encourage you again to reach out to different taxpayer organizations that are trying to get initiatives on the ballot to change that.
Thank you. May we take our next caller, please, AT&T operator?
Thank you. Next, we're going to the line for Matthew Hirota. Please go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, very clearly. Thank you.
Yeah, I had a boat in Merced County, and I moved, and I had a forwarding address to the next house. And I was at that other house for a period of, I think it was less than a year, and I moved back to the original house. Merced County changed the boat registration to the new address, and they never changed it back for 3 years. They had the records from the DMV of my new address, and I spent the last 4 months trying to fix the problem, but they will not resolve the problem or admit any wrongdoing. And so my fee for the year, I think, is $80. But I end up paying over $400 a year in taxes and back fees. I sold a couple houses. So when I sold those houses, the lien on the house paid for it, and I didn't realize that happened. And so I went to a county board meeting and spoke to the county board. And at that point, I got a call from Karen Adams, and I'd be requesting a phone call for her over a month, and she refused to call me. When she finally did call me back, she talked down to me and was gaslighting me until I asked her to stop talking, which she would not do. It's extremely frustrating for myself and other taxpayers to have employees who work for these tax organizations who are unable to think outside the box and resolve problems in a realistic manner. I'm asking that the Board of Equalization audit and look into the actions of Karen Adams and Matthew May in the Merced County District.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Ms. Thompson?
Yes, thank you for your comments, Matthew. I'm sorry I didn't get your last name. If you don't mind reaching out to our office, our telephone number is 916-274-3400, so we can get a little bit more information about the particular properties. I understood that you were talking about a boat.
It's just a boat.
Attached. Okay, so yeah, that's what I understood. It was a boat and that you were moving. But if you can just reach out to our office and that way you can give your contact information, tell them that you were, whoever answers the phone, that you were one of the speakers at the Taxpayer Bill of Rights hearing and that Lisa Thompson, had asked if you could reach out to us. And then we'll get some more specific information and then assist you further in that regard.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Ms. Thompson, for everybody who's listening, could you repeat the phone number again?
Yes, please, thank you. So the State Board of Equalization's Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office telephone number is 916-274-3400. And we have a phone number, of course. We also have a kind of an automated email that's on the State Board of Equalization's website, on the taxpayer rights webpage. So it's a very simple form, very efficient, so you can identify your name and your phone number and or email and contact information, and a little bit about the problem that you're having with whatever property that is, and then we get back to you. So you can call us or submit your email, whichever you prefer.
Okay, thank you. AT&T moderator, is there a next caller for us?
Absolutely. Next, we're going to the line for Elisa Castle. Please go ahead.
Do I need to push anything?
Nope, you're connected to us.
Okay. Well, hello, everybody. I'm calling in about Prop 19. I listened to everybody, what they said before, and I concur. And I've also listened to what you can and cannot do. But basically, I was very instrumental in both Howard Jarvis's signature collection to repeal it because, you know, everything that everybody said previously is true. People are getting taxed out of their homes. Mom and pop landlords, they're under rent control. They can't raise the rent to increase the property tax, but yet they have to pay it. Industrial buyers come in. Sometimes they bulldoze and put up all these units. It's not at all conducive to any kind of affordable housing. And then our government is, you know, doling out money, $180,000 for a first-time home buyer, but your parents can't own a home in the United States to qualify. I mean, it's just a total redistribution. It's really terrible because it was very deceptive. Nobody really knew what they were voting for, and that ought to be illegal. So I know that that's not your deal, but that is just really wrong, and it continues to happen. So basically, here's what happened. We got Howard Jarvis, we got enough signatures to get a meeting with our government, our Congress, and they wouldn't give us a meeting. Two senators went and tried to push their own. I think it was Mr. Suwarto and actually Kevin Kiley, and then there was the senator that's in Encinitas. She also tried to help us. But you know what? The committee just shut it down. So everything that we've been trying to do, and everybody, even a few representatives, our congressional representatives that tried to help us, they just get shut down. And it's really devastating, and the devastation is going to continue to build because nobody can afford their property taxes if they were being taxed on current market value right now. And everybody, I don't think any one of you would feel great about getting a tax bill based on market value. So all these people that are complaining about Prop 13, I mean, it's complicated. So when you move in, you know Prop 13. The little old lady down the street pays like 1/10 of what I pay, but I know that. But that benefits me in the long run. So Prop 19, that was a great tool that longtime Californians could pass on intergenerational wealth, which at one time was valued. Now it's not valued. It's like they don't want anyone to own a home. And it's very, very devastating. So my question is to you, is there any way that you can help us with this fight?
Well, thank you so much for your comments, and I think you've correctly identified the place where a difference can be made, and that's the state legislature. You mentioned Senator Sayerto and others.
Yes.
And I think it's very important to continue to keep into contact with your state legislators and see what is being done in terms of another constitutional amendment to change in some way the constitutional amendment with Prop 19. But I think that you've highlighted very well to us the difficulties that arise when policymaking is done through a constitutional amendment and becomes an embedded part of our state constitution. So thank you so much, and I hope that you'll stay in touch with the legislature because the ball is really in their hands.
Well, I would appreciate if all you listening would do that, in addition to all of you on this board, if you would start talking, because it's a big problem. It really is, and it's a shame for long-time Californians to have this taken away from them. I mean, I want my kids to be able to live here. Are they going to be able to live here? I don't know.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I will say that we do have hundreds of thousands of contacts now about Prop 19. Ms. Thompson, did you want to add anything brief to that?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, yeah, your remarks address it very well. So I don't have any further remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. AT&T,
Thank you very much.
thank you for calling in.
Thank you very much. All right. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you. AT&T operator, may we take our next caller?
Yes, next we're going to the line for Ann Gray. Please go ahead.
Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. My name is Ann Gray, and I also wanted to provide some testimony about Prop 19. Based on all the testimony you've heard so far, I kind of changed mine up a little bit. But before that, I'd like to make a couple other comments. There was somebody who talked much earlier about getting rid of Prop 13. And I just want to say that California is second only to New York in terms of house prices. And as we know, the values and the prices just soar every year. And every year they go up. It makes it harder for families to own or rent homes here. We need to keep Proposition 13. It's a great acquisition-based system that benefits all property owners. I wanted to say that. And I also wanted to say that I appreciate his apology. I found it rather insensitive for the person on your side who basically spoke to the woman from Sunnyvale and encouraged her to leave her community because now she's got $2.5 million and join a retirement club or a group somewhere else for $5,000 a month. I find it insensitive just to assume that, well, if you can't afford a $2 million house, then you can just leave. I found that just inappropriate. And, you know, and she also sounded a lot too young to be going into retirement. But anyway, so I think with my other comments shorter, I would just like to reiterate the need to fix Prop 19. At a time when California is struggling to provide affordable homes by virtue of Prop 19 and its higher taxes, many children cannot afford to keep their inherited primary residence and are forced to move and forced to leave their communities. Or, as we heard from the other speaker earlier, to struggle financially. As she mentioned, she said she has 2 jobs and doesn't know how she's going to make it. And several other speakers before that, they've all made a strong case for reversing Prop 19. And although we don't talk about it as much as was mentioned, it really hurts renters too. Because when people inherit rental property and they get the new massive assessments and higher taxes, they're most likely going to be forced to pass it on to their tenants. Then they can't afford it, and so much for affordable housing. I heard in one testimony on a different call that one man had to increase his monthly rents by $1,300 just to account for higher Prop 19 taxes, and that his tenants were largely older people who had lived there for a long time and were tenants there, well, you know, as he grew up, basically. So Prop 19, as we all try to figure out how we're going to tackle this affordable housing issue we have in California, Prop 19 does not foster affordable housing. It does the opposite. And finally, businesses, they're starting to close too because they can't absorb or pass on via prices their higher costs caused by inheriting a business property where there is no exclusion. It's just as if they would have walked out on the street and bought it by, from scratch. There's no protection. And so much for the whole buy local trend. We want to buy local. Well, not if people can't afford to keep their businesses. And it's not about then all the jobs that are lost and creating all the family instability that Prop 19 does. Just listen to the speakers. So it's definitely hurting families, tenants, and businesses. And I know that this is beyond your ability based on what you're charged with. But any way that you can help people get this message out so that we can restore the California that we all love and that so many of us were born into and cherish. We can't do it if the fabric of our society is being torn apart by this awful new property tax law. Thank you. Oh, I'd also want to say, yes, I would also encourage people to look at Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association repeal the death tax group and sign up and also go to the 4 Californians 6 Prop 19 website and group, because we're all working very hard to get this on the ballot or fix it one way or the other. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. We really appreciate you speaking with us. Thank you. And AT&T operator, may we take our next call?
Yes, and as a reminder, if you have a comment, please press 1, then 0. Next, we're going back to the line for Sherry Duffy. Please go ahead.
Hi, sorry, I didn't mean to press it again.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm fine. I have nothing more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next, we're going to the line for Jen Kilroy. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. I had hoped to make the trip to Sacramento in person from San Mateo County, as I did speak in person in 2022. That year, I recounted several stories of folks who will be heavily or have been impacted severely by Prop 19. 2 of them disabled. One's a blind person who still has no idea this train is coming. She's a renter. She will not be able to afford a shoebox in the zip code that she lives in. I'm torn. Do I break this news to someone I know in my neighborhood and cause their blood pressure to go up, or do I let this person get hit by the train? It's kind of a moral dilemma. The other disabled person is undiagnosed mental disorder. They came on as an adult, and in this case, it happens to come on in males quite frequently in their late 20s. He is someone that can't even comprehend the scenario at hand and how it's going to impact him. The last person is a senior, a retired educator in San Jose, who is fully aware that her life will be turned upside down once her centurion parent that she cares for passes. Fast forward to today, we know we talked about there was another attempt to get this to the ballot. We got a lot more signatures, but we still fell short. Unfortunately, the way it's set up in our government, if it's a citizens initiative without giant money behind it, like a corporate sponsor like California Association of Realtors, who bankrolled Prop 19, it's very difficult to get the signatures in 6 months. Today, I'm here to ask, plea, beg. I'm not above begging that the BOE take it upon the organization to do a thorough education blitz to the entire California population, renters, homeowners, businesses who are all impacted. If nothing more, people deserve to be aware. They're being blindsided. All of these people that have called in, it's very, very sad. They somehow became aware, luckily before they got hit in the head, so they had a little bit of notice. Most people have no ideas. 2 weeks ago, I was walking my dog on the coast in Half Moon Bay. I walked by a home that was clearing out a bunch of stuff to their house, started a conversation with the person who was doing this. I guessed he was about 50. I would describe him as a normal wage earner. He's not a venture capitalist nor a doctor. He's lost his mom about a month prior. He had no idea about Prop 19 nor the impact. He had been contemplating moving in and renting some of the rooms as affordable rents to people like him that are just very kind of middle, light income earners that are critical to our community. His home is headed into probate, which could take years to complete. So he didn't know that his property taxes had already jumped a month ago. He had no idea about moving in, what forms needed to be filled out timely. He had no idea that there is a path to try to see an exemption, which you can be rejected if you don't know and fill out these forms. It's complicated by a sibling. He may have to buy his brother out. That means that exemption at most will be $500,000. I bring it up as a simple illustration of how harmful the lack of awareness is. The deception of this proposition was passed. When Kevin Mullen helped draft this Prop 19, the million exclusion, it worked in a rational way for him when his father passed. His property tax went from $1,733 at under $2,000 to $3,501. Something affordable for even people with less income than a senator or congressperson could probably afford. Had Mr. Mullen lived one city to the south, the tax jump would have been manyfold, where he may have seen an increase to $18,000 or $20,000 a year, something a school teacher could not likely absorb. I'd appreciate any insight on additional avenues that come to mind on how we can get this corrected. I'm trying to talk to a senator down here. There was talk of doing a resolution as opposed to trying to go do a state constitutional amendment. I'm not familiar with what that really would do. And I'm having a similar dialogue that Mr. Vesquez talked about, the education of the senior exemptions that they don't know they can bail out of the school bonds. People don't know about this. So appreciate you hearing me. And all that you do for the million citizens of California. I know there was a threat of trying to get rid of this board that makes me want to pull my hair out. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for calling in, and I think that you bring up a good prompt for us, which is to really redouble the public education that we're able to do. And we have 4 board members here who each represent a quarter of the state, and really informing people, because the legal education there in terms of trusts and wills and what you can do to avoid probate, and how you can put yourself in the best position possible, absent a change in the law, is something that's very, very important to us. We mostly deal with the technical questions after the fact, and so whatever we can do to get in front of it is very critical too. So thank you so much for calling in. Ms. Thompson, anything to add there?
Yes, I do. I just wanted to thank you, of course, for commenting. I just wanted to let you know that our office does currently have information sheets on the parent-child exclusion that is available on our website, and many county assessors' offices link to that information. So we are very involved in taxpayer education. Our office is currently working on an information sheet on things to do if the death of a real property owner occurs, so they know of certain reporting obligations that are required to the county assessor's office to report that change in ownership. Well, I realize, that doesn't change the current law as far as what is reassessable, but that certainly would increase taxpayers' awareness of it. So we will coordinate with our agency's communications officer to publicize that information sheet once it is posted, and also ensure that all county assessors statewide are aware of that in case they want to add some information to their website to do that. So thank you so much.
And just to
Ms. Thompson, if I could just add.
Yes, please.
It is, and I appreciate all of that. The problem lies, nobody's going to those websites, right? This gentleman I met in Half Moon Bay, he's not looking there, but he might see something on Nextdoor. If you allocated a little money for a electronic digital campaign of awareness to a Nextdoor, to a Facebook, we need to push the info, not rely on what I call in technology pull, where they come to you to get it. We need to get it out in front of people. And I personally am, telling people all the time about this because it's devastating lives, right? It existed for 35 years. It was very silently and sneakily passed. People don't know until they hear a horror story or their horror story is their own. So food for thought. If there's any room for that, I think it would be a massive win for the BOE and for all the citizens of California.
Thank you. And while the caller is still online, Ms. Thompson, is it still the case that government agencies aren't allowed by Nextdoor to be on the platform to push the information out? I know that was the case last year.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not aware of that. That would be something for our communications officer. I don't know if he would like to speak to that. Or I can just discuss it with him, and what I'll do is bring it back to the next.
We'll definitely look at that. And I know that the local cities are allowed to have their police department and et cetera on Nextdoor. So maybe we can explore some ways to push that out through that channel. And the caller also asked about a resolution in the state legislature. And I think that's a good way to spread awareness of the situation, but it does not impact the existence of Prop 19. That's something that can only be changed through another constitutional amendment going to the ballot and being approved by the voters. So thank you so much.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. And AT&T operator, may we have our next call, please?
Yes. Next, we're going to the line for Marcia Chankin. Please go ahead.
Yes. Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, very clearly.
Yeah, oh, wonderful. Yes, my name is Marcia, and I'm a realtor, and I'm very troubled by how high our property taxes are right now. And certainly it's troubling me that people want to repeal Prop 13 and the problems with Prop 19. A lot of people are leaving California, and I hate to see that. I've lived here almost my entire life, and it's very troubling that people are leaving because of taxes or various other reasons having to do with taxes, like even property owners who own businesses, they can't afford to do business anymore, and then they're closing shop, and it just affects the entire economy of our state. And it's just not wise, I think, to keep increasing the taxes when perhaps the budget itself should be looked at and what we are spending the money that we are taxing people with, where that money is going. I really think there needs to be a major examination of that. I will do my part, as some of the callers have said, to get the word out. I certainly plan on contacting the legislature and doing what I can through my associations as a realtor to educate people on this, of what's going on right now. Aside from the people who already know, there are plenty who don't know, and what may happen to them if they inherit property or what have you. So I will certainly do my part. It's very troubling to me what's happening right now. It's a beautiful state. So many people love being here, and I hate to see it go downhill like this. It's just not tenable for the people that have been here for many years, many generations, and want to stay here. And I agree with a couple of the callers that said, no disrespect, please, to you, Mr. Schaefer, but I'm sorry, I'm gonna say my client, because I love my clients. If people want to stay in their home, they should have the right to do that and not be taxed out of their homes. It's not right. Their families want them to have it. They want to stay there, then they should have the right, and that we should provide the means as a state for them to do that. Help them, please do that, because they obviously are contributing to the state all this time, and we should help them remain there if they want to, not have them be forced out of their property.
Thank you so much for your comments, and we appreciate you calling in and
Sure.
appreciate your willingness to spread the word to your community about what folks need to be aware of. So thank you so much.
Yes, definitely. Sure. Thank you so much for listening to what I had to say. I really appreciate your time and for putting on this meeting. I would love to actually see more of these meetings, not just once a year. I think it's important that more of the community be involved, and if there are more dates that it takes place, maybe even once a month, I think we have an opportunity to have more people participate. But once a year just doesn't seem like it's enough, especially with that upheaval that's going on right now.
That would be great. Thank you. And if you can also spread the word about the availability of our Taxpayer Rights Advocates Office, it's linked to the BOE website. That's very, very important for folks to get their problems solved. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I will certainly do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Thompson, any final comments?
Just that, yes, I mean, the current law does allow the home to continue as the principal residence, so it does pass it on, but as you know, there are limitations to that, the $1 million cap in particular. So we do encourage you, again, to seek out, legislative change, and we certainly appreciate you increasing the awareness amongst your own clients as a realtor or others in that real estate community. So thank you.
Thank you. And AT&T moderator, if you could please let us know if there are others holding on the line.
Yes, and as a reminder, if you have a comment, please press 1 then 0. Next, we're going back to the line for Gina C. Louis. Please go ahead.
I think we
Hi there. So I just want.
We already heard from Ms. Louis.
Yeah, I wanted to address some of the things that other people had commented on.
I'm sorry, we can only take everybody once, just to be fair, but if you possibly can send us an email, that would be very helpful. Ms. Louie?
And yes, her line has been. Should I bring her back on?
No, but I think she got the message that we would really appreciate an email from her. Is there anybody else who hasn't spoken yet?
There is no one else in queue.
Oh, thank you so much, and thank you to all of our callers and to staff, Ms. Linda Thompson and Ms. Hendrickson, for facilitating this hearing. I know that there's a great deal of work that goes into this, and then the year-round work of the Taxpayer Advocates' Rights Office. So thank you so much. Any closing comments, Ms. Thompson?
I just want to thank everyone for providing their comments today, in person, on the phone lines, as well as in writing. We truly appreciate the feedback and comments. And again, our office is here to help taxpayers with problems that they may have with the assessment of collection of property taxes. So if you have something, then please contact us so we can help you. Thank you.
And did we get the phone comments from the lady who had submitted some written comments if she didn't get through on the phone?
Yes, we did.
So we got that.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, thank you so much, and we would appreciate seeing those written comments as well when this process goes forward. And thank you to everyone who's called in and written and even driven up to Sacramento to see us. We so much appreciate it. Now, we're just about an hour and 10 minutes past our lunchtime. And did we want to delve into item 2? Or do we need to meet our labor obligations?
Well, I don't have Ms. Cohen on the line just yet. We believe she's due here in a minute. Do we have any intel?
Yes, Madam Chair, we can wait until after lunch, and maybe Mr. Vasquez will be back too, and we can all just do it at one unison vote.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Emerald.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
So we will be gone for 75 minutes. So we'll now come back at 2:30 to reconvene. And we'll be going into recess now and come back at 2:30. Thank you so much.